Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Careful for Spoilers. I am your host James Barnes, and today guys, Lola is back. It has been such a long time. It feels like a long time anyway since you've been on the podcast, and today we're going to be talking about Justice League. Lola texted me telling me that she finally saw Justice League, and I'm like, let's just fucking review it. Let's just do it because there's so much to say about this movie. There's so much potential in this movie. Just like BVS, there was a lot of potential, and it's just not there. But before we get into that, how have you been?
I've been doing okay, you know what I mean? Just living my life. I actually feel very full circle today coming in to do Justice League, because when I first met you and you told me you had a podcast, the first podcast of yours that I listened to was BVS, The Martha Chronicles.
The Martha Chronicles.
That was the first one I listened to, and the first one that I did with you was on Wonder Woman.
That's right.
So I feel like we're coming full circle. Like I started with probably the best DC has ever had to offer to what might be the worst. I'm not sure where it falls. I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about how bad it was, or I wouldn't have shown up today. I'd still be in bed pondering what happened, what was going on with his mouth. You know, like so many questions.
Yes, dude.
So
it is so distracting. But before we get into that, like, I want to know, what movies have you been watching recently? Like, what good and bad movies have you been watching? What's caught your eye? What do you want to talk about?
You know, the most recent that I've seen, I actually went and saw Birds of Prey, which I actually really enjoyed. I didn't have very high hopes for. I think they did a terrible job marketing that movie because it looked like Suicide Squad 2. Walked into it like, nah, we'll see. Left it like, oh, that was great. And then was like, no, I'm giving it too much credit. It was all right.
Yeah.
But, you know, outside of that, we finally have one of those monthly movie passes like you and all the fun kids have. So just going and seeing everything. I think I've seen Knives Out 3 times.
Such a good movie.
Such a good movie. Trying to watch through the Oscar films and see what they're doing. I had like my own private moment with Little Women, because no one wanted to go see it with me, but that's fine.
You could have texted me.
I could have texted you. But we are different chains. We're different theater chains.
That's true. I mean, you paid for AMC how many times coming to the movies with us? I would have paid.
You gotta get, what is it, the Triple D experience?
What is it?
I call it the Triple D experience, Dolby Digital Drama or something like that. I laugh every time. Because I'm 13 years old.
I loved Knives Out. The only issue that I had with Knives Out is that Chris Evans was such the obvious choice. Like, I thought spoiler alert, I thought it was Chris Evans before they even started shooting the movie. Once they announced the cast, I'm like, Ryan, don't make Captain America the bad guy. Everyone will see it coming.
It's funny you say that, because nobody that I have seen it with or talked to about it had any clue.
What?
I know. Smart people.
It's so on the nose, though. Like, it's so obvious. It's like, well, he's such a good guy in this one movie, let's make him the worst person.
Well, and it does make sense why he would choose that he wanted to be not Captain America. I can only imagine how bored he must be, having played like Mr. Prim and Proper for so long. But boy, looks good in that sweater.
I mean, yeah, the entire family, they're all garbage in their own way, except Jamie Lee Curtis's character. I don't think she's garbage, but everyone else is garbage. He's just another garbage family member. Like, why did he have to be the killer?
I don't know. He looked fine as hell, though.
It just kind of ruined it for
General
me.
Zod did a good job, Michael Shannon.
Yeah, Michael Shannon is awesome.
Happy to see him doing something that isn't a DC film.
Yeah, Don Johnson's cool in there.
Oh my God, Don Johnson having a comeback is one of the coolest things about life, because he has not been cool in so long.
What else have you been watching?
You know, we've been trying to catch up on all of the streaming networks, getting through everything. So like a lot of the Apple Plus stuff, like The Morning Show, watching
Haven't gotten into that yet.
I just binged the 3rd season of Sabrina.
Okay. Is it good?
No.
It's not?
No.
I've heard that it's good, though.
The 1st and 2nd season of, I believe it's The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is the full name. I call it Sabrina. I call it My Husband's About to Leave the Room, because he refuses. I think all of the satanic references, they just don't land with him. He doesn't find them funny. The 3rd season is trash.
That's
absolute trash. And this is coming from somebody who grew up watching Charmed.
Yeah, I love Charmed.
You know what I'm saying? This shit's trash. The Jack Ryan season 2 on Amazon Prime. Big Jack Ryan fan. Big Krasinski fan. Super excited about A Quiet Place 2 coming out. Like, can't wait. You know, I'm trying to think of what is the other show. I've been trying to get through all of the shows on the streaming services we have, so that I can move into downloading HBO and binging like Watchmen.
Yeah, I still need to get into that. It sucks it's not going to get any more seasons.
I know. So the first season must be amazing, and I've heard from people that it's like phenomenal. People who don't care at all about like the comic Watchmen, didn't know it had been a movie, although they say you have to watch the movie to understand this one, or at least know about the original movie to watch this one. But I'm only going to pay for HBO for like 2 months, okay? Because I'm running out of money because I have too many damn streaming services.
Right?
Like, I can't. Everything. I have almost everything. So I've got to get to the point where I can just do the Watchmen and his Dark Materials and then be done and get the fuck out of town.
Are you watching You on Netflix?
Mm-mm.
It's good.
No, I've been stalked. I don't need to go back to that dark place.
Have you been stalked for real?
I mean, yeah, but it's pretty far in the past. It's fine. He married a friend of mine.
Okay.
They're unhappily married.
But you is a good show. I really want to get into Jack Ryan. I want to start all of these series, but all of the podcasts that I'm doing, I'm just watching movies. Really.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
Tomorrow we're recording Best One, Worst One, heist movies.
Oh,
so
shit.
that's going to be so much fun.
There's not enough to pick from.
There's so many.
It's such a you're just like, pick whatever, you know? Just heist movie. Did you define what a heist movie was for them before going in?
No.
Okay.
I mean, a robbery of some sort by
something
a
has to get
ragtag
taken.
Group of people.
Something has to get stolen from somebody else, and that's all that matters.
What, do you have subgenres for heist movies?
No, but I mean, like, you could, right? You could have subgenres of heist movies. You could have art heists, you could have money heists, you could have casino heists, you could have virginity heists.
I just they're all in there.
I mean, there are a lot of people who would say that most of the Fast and Furious movies are heist movies, but not
I would say
heist movies.
5 is a heist movie.
5 is a heist movie?
I don't see any of the other ones really being heist movies. I mean, I guess the first one has heist elements.
Yeah.
But it's not based around the heist, really.
Well, and the second one starts with them stealing from a truck on a mountaintop. That's a heist. Fair. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you could have subgenres of heist movies.
That's true. Yeah, but we're talking about all of them. So, the Best One, Worst One podcast is going to be bi-weekly from now on. Having 2 weeks in between is going to give myself and my guests who have jobs and lives just a little more time to watch more movies so that we can give you guys better content. Because trying to fit in so many different movies of one actor or director in 1 week, it's a lot to do. So it's less episodes, yes, but I think it'll be more beneficial to you guys who are supporting the podcast to have better content. And I think that's the most important thing. So yeah, that's how it's going to be from now on. I think it's going to be really fun. Yeah. So let's get into Justice League.
Oh, Jesus. I actually thought we were having fun. Maybe we would forget why I showed up.
Justice League it says it was directed by Zack Snyder, but we know
it's actually not true.
Half directed by Zack Snyder, but completely re-edited, redone like 80% of it by Joss Whedon.
Which is crazy, because it is such a Snyder film to me. Like, there are... I actually didn't know that when I watched it the first time. The second time I had boned up on all my trivia, and I could pick out these scenes that had a very Whedon-esque feel to them. But I also read that they insisted that he stay within Snyder's vision, and I think that's one of the big problems of the film, is it was someone almost like mocking or interpreting someone else's style when that style is so alien to themselves. If they'd have actually let Whedon do something different, I think it would have been better.
I don't know. Everything that I don't like about this movie is because of Joss Whedon, I think. It's because of Joss Whedon and the billion executives that had so much to say about what's supposed to be in the final cut of this movie. They wanted it to be 2 hours, not a minute longer, and everyone had to work in between these confines. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. 2 hours is not enough time when it's your very first time introducing Flash and Cyborg.
Exactly.
Like, I still don't know what the hell Cyborg's backstory is.
And that's the thing. It's in the Snyder cut, because when you go back to like the trailers and stuff, there's so much more Cyborg footage, but it's not in this movie. There's this really cool Flash sequence between him and Iris with a car. It's not in it. It's fucking ridiculous. I want the Snyder cut. I need to see that vision, because this movie, It's not terrible, but I don't think it's good enough to where I'm like, oh, it's the weekend, I want to see a comic book movie, I'm going to put on Justice League.
I'm never going to watch it again. I can guarantee you. I'm
really?
There's never going to be a moment where I'm like, I feel like I should watch the Justice League. No. Nope. I got Disney Plus. There are plenty of Marvel movies that do their characters justice. That I'll watch instead of ever watching the Justice League again. It's like just like a camel when they were shooting for a horse. You know what I mean? Like, it's not what it's supposed to be. Like, this is supposed to be a grand adventure paying tribute to this comic book legend. Like, the Justice League is a legend in comic books, the same way that, I would say more so than the Avengers is.
I agree completely.
And they just did it so dirty.
Yeah, they want it to be this big thing. Like, there's so many scenes, especially towards the end, where it's like they think that it's this big thing, and I'm like, you didn't earn any of this. That. You don't have the right to have these moments. No one's going to feel anything because you didn't earn it. You tried to take shortcuts and just go straight to Justice League because the MCU was already so far deep, and it's like, we got this.
Yeah, I mean, just because MCU was doing so amazing doesn't mean that you got to do whatever you wanted and just assume that the audience was going to be there for it. Like, we talked about it a lot. There's a reason why the MCU is this amazing thing, like, they really took time to build out and flesh out their characters. They pay great respect and great homage to who they were in the comics, and even when they had to tweak or change things to make it work, it was still done with a sort of reverence for both the character and its fan.
Yeah.
I don't know what the shit was happening in Justice League. Like, a lot of people know that the Flash is fast, and that's it. They don't know about the Speed Force. They don't know about, my husband had a conversation with me earlier, like, when he runs into something really fast, why does he move it and it doesn't crush him? Which is a valid question. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know that the Speed Force exists around Barry Allen to sort of give him this almost like ultra dimension around his body. And they don't explain it.
I mean, they kind of do, but it's really rushed again. It's one of those things
so
where
rushed.
It's just like it's cut. So with the Flash's speed in this movie, it's not the traditional, he was hit by lightning and he runs really fast. They chose to go in the direction where he's able to jump inside of the Speed Force, and because the Speed Force manipulates time and space, it gives the illusion of super speed, which I think is really cool, and I think they handle it really well. But again, it's not explained, and if you don't know much about the lore of comics, then you won't really know what's going on.
That's my biggest problem with the movie. I have like a list of like 3 or 4 biggest problems with the movie, but I think ultimately my biggest one is that the movie just feels very rushed. They don't spend any time in the explanation zone. The beginning is terrible.
Like the very opening sequence?
Oh, the very opening sequence through the depressing song, which is just some of the worst, and I'm sure we'll get into it, and then to the first scene with Batman, where they just expect you to know what's going on. Like, that kind of sets the tone for the whole movie. It's this very depressive, we're going to drop you in the middle of this world and you know what's up. But a lot of people don't know what's up. And not because they don't read the comic, but because nothing is explained. Like, the first time we see a parademon, I thought, oh, cool, Firefly is in this film. Because it looks just like Firefly, really, and it's like flying up at Batman, and I'm like, this is actually one of those kind of, I don't know, I think a lot of people know Firefly from the comics, but if you didn't read DC Comics, you have no idea about the villain named Firefly, right? Yeah. But I always thought he was cool, because I like fire, and he likes fire, and I'm insane, and he's insane. We'd probably get along. I thought the parademon was that. I was like, oh, cool, Firefly's here.
I was okay with that because I kind of felt like it was a comic where they just kind of like drop you in, you get into the meat of what's starting to happen, and then throughout the rest of the series they explain piece by piece. This movie doesn't do that.
No, it doesn't do shit. There's no, like, even in the, I'm sure we'll get into it, but the explanations of what's going on are terrible.
Yeah.
Awful.
They're really rushed, again, because of that time constraint. It's ridiculous.
Well, also they're just bad.
Yeah. Another thing about this movie is Wonder Woman came out right before this. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, I went from Wonder Woman to this.
Also, we went from the version of Wonder Woman in that film to the version that was in this film.
I'm saving that because I have many notes on that topic.
So many.
Last thing before we just get into the beginning of this movie and onward is this movie only made $657 million worldwide.
Oh my gosh.
Which is insane. Like you've already alluded to, the Justice League is the greatest team of superheroes in comics, period. There is no argument to be made. It's the Justice League, right? How does this movie only make $657 million? Wonder Woman made, what was it, like 900 and something?
It was insane. Yeah,
it made a lot of money. Aquaman made a bunch of money, and this proves...
Aquaman made more money than Justice League. Aquaman, who is known as like the dude who talks to fish and we're not that into.
Yeah,
of course I'm into Jason Momoa, but I'm just saying, like, the standalone Aquaman movie should not have made more money and been much better than the Justice League movie.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just rushed. You should have released these solo movies, let us get introduced to the world of each of these characters, get to know the universe before you just throw us into Justice League. So let's just get into it. So the opening scene is these kids filming Superman for their podcast, and this is the first time that we get to see that fucking terrible lip thing where his mustache is removed. It is really distracting.
It's so distracting. It is so one of the things that Henry Cavill has going for him, or Cavill, I don't know how anybody wants to say his last name, is that he's hot, is that he's fine, is that he has the face of a Greek statue. I don't think the man can act that great.
Really?
I enjoyed him in The Witcher. Mm-hmm. He doesn't talk much.
I think he's a good actor. The problem is I don't think the direction that he's given for Superman is good.
I will say this was my favorite Superman. At the end of this film was some of the most charming I think Superman can be.
Oh, God, no. I think the best he's done is still Man of Steel.
Oh, well, Man of Steel, I think, is the best of all of the films Snyder's had his name on.
I think Justice League is the worst version of Superman because it's just like, well, he killed a bunch of people in Man of Steel and he was really mopey in BVS, so we'll make him really cheery, and I'm Superman and I'm happy and I save kittens.
Did he save kittens? I didn't see that.
Didn't.
Oh, I was like, where were the kittens, James? But I will say in this opening scene, like, I didn't know that they had CGI'd out his mustache. I had somehow missed that whole thing. I remember him having a thick mustache in Fallout. Mm-hmm. So when I was watching the opening scene of this, I was like, what's he do? It's almost like he's making duck face, like, for Instagram while he's doing this. Mm-hmm. And the kids it's trying to be, like, so cute. And the kids are like, you ever fought a hippo? And I'm like, somebody slap this kid. Like, I'm not interested in this child right now. Once they realized how bad he looked with that CGI'd mustache, just scrap it, just cut it, just get rid of the scene, just don't use it.
I mean, how do you scrap it? Because I mean, Joss Whedon reshot so much of this movie,
you can tell,
and it's most of those reshoots are with Henry after he was already doing Mission Impossible. So it's like he's such a huge part of this movie. How do you cut it out?
Just cut that opening scene out.
There's so many other scenes, though.
I know, but that one to me was the worst because it's just his face. I'll tell you, if I'm doing my hair in the morning and it comes out bad, I just call out of work. No harm, no foul. I'm just obviously playing. Like, that's not real. But I'm just saying, scrap it. If the movie would have started after that and that wouldn't have happened, it still would have been really bad. So it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Yeah, I thought it was a good idea. It's like you have these, because it is supposed to be this innocent thing with these kids who see Superman as a hero, and it's like, oh, we're doing it for our podcast, and Superman is actually cool enough to stay here and answer all of our questions. But then we get to the Gotham sequence. I really like this sequence. I thought this was a very Zack Snyder sequence, and I could be wrong. This could have been something Josh shot.
It was actually something Josh shot, and he said, what's funny is my take on it was I felt like it should be a little bit more humorous. And it turned out that Whedon shot that scene, and he shot it humorous, and the studio didn't like it, and they told him it had to be serious.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't humorous.
I wish it had been humorous a little bit.
It doesn't work for me in this universe.
It doesn't, and I think that's why I don't like the universe, is it's so serious, and the humor never lands. But actually, the actor who plays the burglar, I forget his name as an actor. He's like a great character actor. I can see his face. Joss Whedon sent him like a note that said, sorry, it didn't work out the way we wanted, because he had been doing all this great like physical comedy and stuff. But I actually really hate this scene.
Man, I love Batman sitting on the gargoyle. The guy doesn't notice him just yet until he does at the last minute. Batman tackles him, ropes him up, hangs him over the ledge, trying to get the parody.
Trying to get Firefly up.
right? But the shot itself, like that Dutch tilt of him just having the guy tied up, I thought that looked really cool. I felt like this is Gotham. Like this actually really feels like Gotham. So that's what I liked about it. And one of my favorite things about this movie is there are a couple of really great shots. And it's like, well, who did them? Was it Zack?
Can say, that one was Joss Whedon. And I do agree with you. Like, it's nice that there are different sort of feels to certain parts of the movie, which is a big complaint that I have with Snyder's first two films, with Man of Steel and with the Martha Chronicles, is that he just has this one color palette and this one vision and this one way that he does things, and it becomes very aesthetically boring when you're watching his work. And Justice League had a lot of differences. They were all stolen from a different movie or stolen from a different TV show, and I'll get into that, but at least it kind of breaks up that visual monotony that I associate with Snyder's DC films.
Yeah, another thing that I hate about this movie, it's so dull.
Yes.
All of the colors are dull. It's lifeless. I feel like the costumes are somewhat dull.
The wardrobe and the hair and the makeup is some of the worst stuff I've seen in a movie. I have just like lists of how bad the wardrobe is and how bad they do Wonder Woman's makeup. It changes. You can see the reshoots and how her hair is curled.
Yeah, how it's curled, the length of her hair.
The lipstick. Sometimes she has a neutral lip and sometimes she has a bright red lip. And I understand that maybe I'm going to notice that over most dudes in the audience, but when you notice it, you can't look away. Sometimes she has a crimp. Sometimes she has a loose curl. It's like they fired her makeup squad and then did reshoots. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, who knows if they were even able to get those people back to do the makeup.
I don't think they could.
Might have gone on to do other projects, but we get into the next scene where it's like the Superman memorials all over the world, and then we get that terrible music choice.
Song.
We get the thug guy who kicks the fruit in slow-mo. I'm like, what is this? What's this supposed to mean?
And like the homeless guy with his dog and his little sign that says "I tried," like just this like very oppressive, like look at how bad the world is, and just this idea that the world is only bad now because Superman died.
Exactly. I'm like
nobody was kicking peaches before Superman died. Like seriously,
Batman was Batman for 20 years before Superman,
which means that 30 years ago somebody shot a mother and father in an alley in front of their small child. Like this has not been a good world. Like, what are y'all trying to say here? Like, no one was homeless, and then Superman died, and everybody lost their homes.
Speaking of losing homes, Kent Farm is up for sale.
And
Martha
what was that
loses
about?
The house.
Why do we have to go that deep? Like, was Clark Kent paying for the house?
Well, Lola. Well, because Martha's husband is gone, she has no man. She has no man. There's no way that she could support herself to keep her home. I mean, she needs her man.
As a woman, I didn't catch on to that because I needed a man to explain to me.
I thought that was so stupid. That was the first thing I thought of. I was like, okay, because Jonathan's dead, she can't keep up with the payments on the house anymore?
Girl gotta get to stripping.
It's like, you work on a farm. Like, that's where the work is. Like, I don't care. I can talk about that.
I thought it was a really weird thing that at the end, after Superman dies in the Martha Chronicles, I guess I can stop calling it that, but it feels real.
No, keep calling it that.
Perfect.
I'm having so much fun.
Martha Kent gives Lois Lane the engagement ring that Clark Kent had mailed to his farmhouse. And she's wearing it in this film. And I think, to me, that's not sweet. It's a little creepy.
Why?
Like, he never asked you.
Yes, he was going to,
He was going to, but he never asked you.
He was going to.
It's like, if it had been on, like, a chain around her neck as a reminder of him, that would have been sweet to me. But wearing it and giving off this vibe to the world that you're engaged when this man is dead is sort of like, I really worry about her mental health.
I mean, after you fall in love with Superman and he looks like Henry Cavill, I mean, aren't you going to be not okay for a little while?
Yeah, but I'm not going to wear the ring if he didn't give it to me. Maybe I'm put it on a chain, you know what I mean? Like, and Martha Kent calling herself her mother-in-law was sort of strange. I don't know, like,
I thought it was sweet.
I think they were going for sweet, and it just didn't play for me. Although that scene where Martha Kent says that Clark said she was the thirstiest girl he ever knew, that actually made me laugh. I actually laughed out loud at that part.
That was really funny.
And they both just sort of sit with it for a second.
The lady on the news that says the alien stole her husband.
And now they're going to probe him? He's a good provider. And now they're going to probe him? But I kept thinking that aliens were going to be a thing in the movie later. But they weren't. It was just like a throwaway anal probe scene. Like, okay, good job.
Superman's an alien, so other aliens exist. The next sequence is probably my second or third favorite in the whole movie. It's when Wonder Woman stops the terrorists.
And I like the music.
How fucking awesome is this? Yes, I love her score.
John T. Caper music, as I have written on my notes.
The only thing that I didn't like, and rewatching it again, it's like, oh, well, this is the first of the many scenes where we have a camera up Gal Gadot's skirt.
Up her ass, man. Like, it's crazy. Like, they're either zooming in on her crotch from the front or on her butt from the back.
I'm like, here we go.
It was just like
fucking Brett Ratner. Here we go.
It was jarring.
Very.
You know?
Especially after coming off of Wonder Woman. Where it's... Because guess what, guys? Women can be powerful and sexy without over-sexualizing them.
Yes.
It worked for an entire fucking movie. Why would you do this in Justice League? It's so fucking annoying. When she lassos the guy, pulls him up, the camera is right up her fucking skirt.
Yeah, right up her skirt.
I'm like, what is the point of this?
And it's just depressing because it's like... being able to tell the difference between the female gaze and the male gaze that intensely in a movie, like, shouldn't be there. You should be a good enough director to film a scene that doesn't feel like it's violating one of your characters. You know what I mean? Like, and Wonder Woman had a female director, and she pulled it off with such beauty and grace, like, to the point where there was female gaze on Chris Pine, like, to make him this over-sexualized character. And that is shaken off. Like, it's made fun of for a second during the bath scene that he has in the movie, and then they just move past it very beautifully and seamlessly and get back into them just being equals, which was such a beautiful part of Wonder Woman. And then you jump into this movie, they're filming up her skirt, they're panning on her ass like she's Margot Robbie in Suicide Squad, they're dressing her like her Fast and the Furious character, her cleavage is out all the time, and she's like... just every one of the members of the team has some moment or multiple moments where they're in awe of her beauty or say something stupid about her, want to get with her. It's just like...
which you shouldn't be upset about, because even in the comics, Diana is known as the most beautiful woman on the planet.
Listen, I hit on her.
She's incredibly powerful, and she is the most gorgeous woman on the planet. It makes sense, but it's played so terribly.
You know,
it's
here's
not
the thing.
Done well.
It's done in a way of like, man, I want to bend her over a sofa.
Yes.
And not done in a way of like, this chick is so powerful, so heroic, and so beautiful that I really, really want to know what it's like to kiss her on the mouth. That's two very different points of view. You know what I mean? Like, no, I mean, when you start dressing Wonder Woman like she's in a Fast and Furious movie with leather pants that don't fit her correctly and kind of look like a diaper... They really overemphasized how skinny she was, too, which in Wonder Woman, she was a little bit more powerful seeming when she was in scenes, but they didn't do anything for her, and they didn't do anything for the Amazons.
Yeah, but besides that, the sequence is really, really cool. The guy holding the machine gun, and he's shooting after all of the hostages, and she blocks all of the bullets. That was so fucking cool. I had so much fun with that.
I would say that was probably my favorite scene in the film. That's my favorite sequence, is her opening. And I always get pumped a little bit when I hear her music, the Wonder Woman theme.
Yeah.
Now, they do overuse her theme in Justice League. They play it a couple of times. Like, every time Wonder Woman's about to do something cool, they play a little bit of her theme
They
music.
Overdo the score in a lot of scenes for a lot of different people.
Batman gets it overdone for him as well, I feel like. But it's not. It's like an older Batman theme.
It's the animated series.
Yeah,
Danny
that's what
Elfman,
I thought. Yeah. Because Whedon fired Snyder's sound guy and put Elfman into the film.
Yeah.
And Elfman just reused music he'd previously done. Well, and I mean, not in a bad way, as like the
he's a
theme
great
music.
composer,
Yeah, he's great. But I just felt like they leaned on, like, when they had a theme for the character, it was really overused, which really showcased how they didn't have one for Flash or Cyborg or Aquaman because they hadn't explained those characters.
I like the Flash score. I have a problem with it, though, because it kind of sounds like, okay, well, everyone likes the Flash TV show score, so let's start there and make our own version of it.
Yeah.
It still sounds really cool, but that's the only thing I can think of when I hear it. It's really jarring sometimes. But the next scene, we get Bruce looking for Aquaman. This is clearly a reshoot scene because his beard looks so fucking fake.
His beard and his hair are so bad throughout the entire film. This man has a lot of money, and he's dressed in ill-fitting clothes. His clothes never fit correctly. His hair is always done badly, and his facial hair never matches from scene to scene.
Yeah,
and
it's
Ben
all
Affleck's
over the place.
he's an older hottie. You know what I mean? Like, Ben Affleck's a cute dude, but he just doesn't look good as Bruce Wayne in this film. And this scene is atrocious.
I don't really like it. It's like
it's pointless.
He's trying to get these people to give up Aquaman even though he knows that he's standing right there. And then in the crowd, someone steps apart and you can see this like drawing on the wall that explains it has like pictures of the mother boxes.
Here's the thing.
Who drew it?
Who drew this shit? And also, throwing it back a little bit to the Batman scene when he explodes the parademon,
right? And
it leaves graffiti on the wall of mother boxes. What the shit?
Yeah, so it's like, does that happen every time a parademon dies?
Every time a parademon dies, they leave 3 boxes on a wall. Like,
I don't get it.
And then I guess
it's not like they're made from the mother boxes.
Well, and at this point, you realize that these boxes are like a thing, right? And can I just say, this is a little bit of a detour. The movie would have been easily 30% better if they would have not called them mother boxes. Because I fucking laugh every time. And at one point I started writing down all the lines that included the mother boxes that made me laugh. And at some point I'm going to read them all for you
mean
on the podcast.
Everything that Steppenwolf says?
Okay, well here's a couple of them. At one point Steppenwolf says to someone, "Your scent is on the mother box." Hilarious. Hilarious. Ladies, we've all been there. Where is my mother box? Then he turns to Cyborg at one point and he says, "My mother box, you were born of her." What? What?
He does. It's ridiculous,
and my
dude.
absolute number one favorite, this was said to Flash, "The mother box is ready. You have to charge it as soon as it touches the fluid." Like, come on, you guys. Are we serious here? I know it's called a mother box in the comic, but the Tesseract was called a Cosmic Cube in the comic, and they changed the name for the movie, and it went fine. You know, call it, I mean, anything really would have been better than Mother Box, because every time they started saying things about it, I would giggle.
See,
my husband would giggle.
I don't think about it because it's like, that's what it is in the comics. It's like, those are Mother Boxes.
But if you don't know that that's what it's called in the comic, which I didn't know that that's what it was called in the comic. Every time I was like, like, and I understand that maybe a lot of people wouldn't have such a juvenile reaction to it, but come on. The mother box is ready, charge it when it hits the fluid. That's not a sentence that's not going to make at least 50% of the audience giggle. You know what I'm saying? Like, but they kind of expect you, and you do eventually pick up on what these boxes are, and you realize that, like, okay, these Icelandic people must know the old story of, you know, the Atlanteans fight against Steppenwolf for the mother boxes.
Who's telling the story,
but who's telling it? Who told Aquaman?
I don't know.
Like, how is that something Aquaman knows? What was Defoe's character's name?
I was just going to say, maybe he told him.
Maybe he told him that's one of the myth of his people. Like, yeah, I can kind of get there on my own, but the movie makes no attempt to take you there.
Yeah, it's like, I want to know who drew it, because I highly doubt Arthur drew it.
Yeah, no.
So who else knows, and why would it be drawn in this random town? It really doesn't fucking matter.
I have a funny piece of trivia about that scene, though. They worked with Mamoa for a really long time. He has one line in Icelandic. They worked with him to get him to say that line perfectly. When the film premiered in Iceland, it had to have Icelandic subtitles because his Icelandic was so bad.
Seriously?
That actually what he says is such gibberish that in Icelandic theaters, they were dying laughing when that scene would happen because it was so bad.
It's ridiculous, dude. How do you feel about Billy Crudup as Henry Allen?
Love him.
Yeah, I thought he was awesome.
I want to see that movie.
Mm-hmm. If I really hope they actually make, because we don't know if it's going to be Flashpoint anymore. They keep going back and forth whether or not it's going to be Flashpoint or not. I can't wait to see more of that relationship. I think he's good as Henry Allen, even though he's only in like 2 scenes. I felt it immediately.
I really enjoyed his kind of paternal love for for Barry, like, was so prevalent. You felt it in the scenes. Like, he brought a great realness to the character, even though he can't even touch his son and he's behind, this glass. And I have to say, I really, really want to like Ezra Miller as the Flash. And I probably give his character more leeway than any of the other characters in this film, because he does have a couple of great moments. But I just don't like him as much as, is it Grant Gustin who plays him on the CW? Mm-hmm. I just don't like him as much as Grant. Yeah. And he doesn't feel like the Flash to me.
And it's so unfair to say that. I agree with you. But it's so unfair because at this point, I have spent, I don't even know how many hours with Grant Gustin as the Flash. And they do such a good job on that show. But there are a lot of scenes with Ezra Miller that I like, and then there's everything else that I hate. I hate the way he runs.
He runs like he doesn't know how to run.
Yeah, it's and they're playing it for jokes, obviously, but it just looks fucking stupid.
He nails the teenager feel. You know what I mean? Like, he does. But there's the scene, I think it's the one we're about to talk, because right after the Icelandic scene, what comes right after the Icelandic scene? Is that when Bruce Wayne shows up at his place?
Yeah, so wait, actually, so Barry visits his dad in jail.
That's right.
And then we go to Star Labs and we meet Silas.
Right. Later in the movie, the very first scene between Ben Affleck and Ezra Miller as Bruce Wayne and the Flash is kind of cute and funny, and also really kind of annoying, because it mirrors a lot the feel of the scene in Captain America Civil War between Stark and Spider-Man and their first meeting. And it feels very much like they're trying to give that same feel to Flash and Batman. Like, Batman's the older mentor and Flash is the younger guy. And Civil War came out the year before, so they may not have even ever seen that scene before they did this. But it just doesn't, I don't know. There's something about it that feels very derivative. A lot of the movie feels very derivative of other films.
Yeah, it really does. And you can just tell executives where they were looking at analytics, what's working in the MCU. Let's just do our version of that. So we finally see Victor Stone as Cyborg. I've never been a Cyborg fan in the comics. I find him to be a very whiny, uninteresting character. Because, yes, I get it. Your father wasn't always around. He was always constantly working. And, you're in an explosion. He tries to rebuild you. You feel like you're a monster, but I just don't get why he's so upset with his dad in this movie. And it's the writing's fault, because there is no character development.
There's nothing.
He's just this bitchy kid who just seems ungrateful. It's like, dude, I lost my wife, I almost lost you, so I decided to do something about it to save your life. Just because you're not happy with the way that you look and you can't walk around in public doesn't mean that you get to be a bitchy little kid.
Yeah, they didn't give him anything to work with. Like, where is he coming from with this pain, this internal pain? I can kind of assume that it sucks to not have hands that are your own, or feet, or really anything. I mean,
you could be dead.
He's essentially just a head, right?
A head and a torso.
Yeah, I feel like his torso was also metal.
Yeah, that's after the mother box transformed him, though.
Gotcha. So, I mean, he feels very like, ooh, y'all are going to laugh in my face. Joel Kinnaman played him in the reboot. RoboCop. Yep, could not think of the word RoboCop. You don't have sexual organs. That kind of sucks if you're a teenage boy.
That's true.
But, they don't explore it. So I don't know of Cyborg from the comics.
But he's acting like his father took it away from him. You could have been dead. He saved your life.
I don't know how you lost that. I don't know. Was it the same explosion that took him and his mother? Was it the one that happened when Doomsday came out in BVS? We don't know anything about it. And my only kind of historical reference point for him is the Teen Titans cartoon.
Yeah.
And he was funny on the Teen Titans cartoon. He's not funny in this film.
At all.
But, what's funny is because I don't have any reference point to him outside of this movie, I didn't mind him. I actually enjoyed him.
I just think he's such a boring character in general.
I love the timbre of his voice.
Yeah.
Which is all he has to work with, because he doesn't do any facial things.
The CGI on him is awful. When
it works, it's good, but when it doesn't, it's terrible. That's the whole movie. When the CGI works, it's good, but when it doesn't, you're like, oh shit, I can see the green screen.
Yes,
I can see it.
Yes.
with my eyeballs. Jeremy Irons is standing on a green carpet, not an ocean.
Yeah. Yes,
I can see it.
So the next sequence, another one of my favorites actually, is when we get to Themyscira and the mother box is being activated. Steppenwolf comes through the boom tube and we
Wait, what? The boom tube?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called in the comic?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I want to be really clear about this. He goes through the boom tube to get to the mother box.
Yep.
And that's what I'm calling sex from now on. That's ridiculous. Nobody put any thought into what they were calling this shit at all. The boom... Get out. No. I can't with this shit. Okay, continue.
But I love that sequence. It showed the strength of the Amazonian women. Although... they were also very overly sexualized.
Ooh, girl.
But they were also very strong and they kicked ass in the entire sequence.
I like the sequence when they get out of the room that the boom tube went into. The mother box, sanctum, if you will. When they're running down that hallway and the Amazons with nipple covers for shirts are like sledgehammering the columns out. Like, yes, those are very strong women, but I got this very big American Gladiator feel from it, that old TV show, and I like feel like that was like Blazer and Laser from American Gladiators and shit. Like, I wasn't feeling it. I didn't like it. Like, it's very jarring to see them have such slutty costumes.
Yeah.
After they were so well costumed in Wonder Woman. Once they get out of that whole situation, the fight on horseback, where they're essentially playing keep away with the mother box from Steppenwolf, was one of the coolest sequences in the whole film. Like, the one Amazon who attaches it to the string and then shoots the arrow and does it knowing she's about to die. Like, just the sacrifice of the Amazons. I do think the movie did a really good job of showing, like, how brave they are.
Yes.
And how strong. You know, and I just think, like, whoever was in charge of, like, that just can't do it without also having them in skimpy clothes. And hopefully we just keep working past that. I think Birds of Prey did a great job.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Like, like, Canary was sexy as hell through the whole film, but it didn't feel like overly sexualized. She just felt like a tough, strong, sexy woman. You don't have to exploit it. And being sexy is not exploitative.
Yeah.
If I'm sexy, it's because I'm feeling myself right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to ever be able to kick anybody in the face. I'm too short. But I try. In fact, they almost went too far in Birds of Prey because they put Huntress in a trash bag. But whatever, I digress. I do think that...
And they put Harley Quinn in a jumpsuit. But
I love that jumpsuit, though. I'm thinking about buying one. It is good. It's less janitor and more high fashion. You know what I mean? I enjoyed the costuming in Birds of Prey a lot. If you haven't seen it, I think you should see it. Don't let the bad reviews scare you away. Well, actually, the great reviews, they just didn't go see it, I guess.
Yeah.
But the Amazon scene was really good. It's funny to me... I don't intend it to be this way, but my two top scenes were definitely Wonder Woman's entrance into the film and then the horseback scene with the Amazons. And I felt bad because it's like everybody knows my favorite DC film is Wonder Woman, so obviously those would be my favorite scenes, but they're done the best.
Yeah, they're literally just done the best.
And the coloring in them is good. Like, the whole last hour of the film is all red.
Yeah. And it's completely different from Snyder's cut, which was more of a blue filter.
But probably, yeah, because that's what he does, is a blue filter.
But I like it, though.
The man is like a walking blue gel light.
The next sequence that I wanted to talk about was Diana going to see Bruce in the Batcave. I don't really like this Batcave. It's kind of just a big facility. It's not really a Batcave, which could be fine for some people.
There's a lot of windows in it for being a cave. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I want a Batcave.
You've got 50-foot ceilings and floor-to-ceiling windows. Like, that's not a Batcave. Like, that's the house of my dreams. Like, what are you doing? It's not a cave.
Yeah, and we get the exposition dump from Diana telling Bruce about the mother boxes, Steppenwolf, the Unity.
The Unity,
Mother.
Which is a great Rick and Morty episode.
I've seen like one episode of Rick and Morty.
Well, it's not for everybody, and we're just going to move on that. But there is an episode where there's like something on a planet called the Unity, and every time they said it on a show, I would laugh about it. But I'll say this: so that whole sequence where she's describing how the tribes of men and the Atlanteans and the old—I can't do her voice—came together to fight this terrible power. It is such a Lord of the Rings ripoff.
You feel that way?
Oh my God. It's so Lord of the Rings. It's not even funny. Like, their costumes, the fight scene, the way that it's done, like, it looks like the scene in Lord of the Rings where they're explaining when all of the tribes came together originally to fight off Saruman. Like,
That's
it's
fair.
just that. And honestly, like, Steppenwolf is one of the biggest problems with the film. This is a Justice League movie. These characters don't need to come together until something is so hardcore it can't be stopped without all of them.
You mean like Darkseid?
Yes. Why wouldn't they use Darkseid?
I don't. That's an executive thing because Darkseid is in the Snyder cut. But it's like, I guess since we're redoing it, it's like, oh, let's start with Steppenwolf, who is adjacent Darkseid, and then for Justice League 2, then we'll give them Darkseid.
But Steppenwolf is so Darkseid adjacent that I didn't even realize who he was. Like, I had to look him up. You told me at one point, you were like, yeah, I think he's Darkseid's uncle. And I just started laughing.
Yeah, in the comics, I'm pretty sure he's his uncle or something like that.
Yeah, he's his uncle. They all come from Apocalypse, which is such a cool piece of the DC universe. Like, the New Gods of Apocalypse was such a cool story. Darkseid is such a cool story. Steppenwolf is lame.
Yeah.
And he's so much cooler in the comics. But he also isn't like a white albino with acne scars. He's a dude. Like, he's just a man in like a helmet with horns on it.
Dude, Infinity War is months after this. Do you realize that? When you look at Steppenwolf and then you look at Thanos, it's like, this is fucking ridiculous.
It's crazy.
This is what happens when you don't spend money and time, and what happens when you do spend money and time. He looks ridiculous.
He's just, there's nothing about him. His parademons are stupid. His story doesn't make sense. I don't know why he's attached to the mother boxes. I don't know why he wants to turn other worlds into the hellscape of his youth.
Because isn't that what Darkseid wants? To go to each planet and subjugate them and pretty much take over the entire universe?
He's DC's Thanos.
That's his whole thing. So it's like he sends his minions to do these things because you would think that your minion should be able to take over one planet.
Yeah, especially when he has all those parademons.
Yeah, but
who live off of the smell of fear.
Which I don't think is a thing in the comics.
It can't be.
I'm like, since when do the parademons sense fear and
how does that help with anything?
Fear? And it's just, no, they're fodder. They're soldiers of Apocalypse. Like, that's it.
They're people who fell fighting the soldiers of Apocalypse and were turned into parademons, right? Like,
that's exactly what it is.
So why was the whole fear thing put in there except for that very last scene with Steppenwolf? And also, Steppenwolf is the name of a band. It can't be the villain.
Is it?
I don't care. Like, Steppenwolf is the name of a 60s or 70s band.
Well, one thing that I did like about that entire sequence is getting to see the Atlanteans, the Green Lantern Corps, the Amazons, the Old Gods. I believe that was Hercules.
I think there's Hercules, there's
Artemis,
Zeus, there's Artemis.
Zeus, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. I liked all of the old gods. I feel like Robin Wright was in it for just like a brief second.
I didn't see her.
There's one blonde Amazon that like jumps off of a horse and impales a parademon that they zoom in on, and I was like, is that like a Robin Wright cameo? Like, I couldn't tell. But I don't know, the whole scene just felt very derivative of Lord of the Rings. Like, so much so that I had trouble enjoying it. But it was fine. Oh, I just smacked my microphone, you guys. Sorry about that. I'm getting so into it, I'm throwing my hands around. But it's a podcast, so no one can see that. But I don't know. I wish that he'd have been a more hardcore villain.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Joker's scarier than Steppenwolf.
Yeah, because Steppenwolf only says generic villain dialogue. He does generic villain shit like choking his henchmen and telling them to go do this and yada yada. He's so boring.
He's so boring.
Like, there's nothing for him to do. It's like, I'm okay if they wanted to use Steppenwolf, but make him more interesting.
Do something with
it.
It
was clearly last minute, and it's like, just make him generic villain 71.
Which never works, and everyone is always upset about whenever you do it. Again, I mean, like, the film is just not well thought out. There's not a lot of... And I don't know what I personally think maybe Snyder's cut is better, but I still don't think it's going to be a good movie.
I honestly think it will be. I think it will be a much better movie than this. Because, again, I don't hate Justice League. I just think there is a better film in there. Much like BVS, there is a much better film in there somewhere.
See, though, like, I don't like the Martha Chronicles at all. And when I watched the director's cut of it, I was like, this isn't better.
Really?
It's better, but it's not an enjoyable movie. Does it make more sense? Yeah, but I don't want to watch it. Do you know what I'm
right.
like?
That's it. It makes more sense.
Yes.
Doesn't make it this much better movie.
I just think me and Snyder I just don't like his style. I don't like it. I don't feel like he brings any respect to the subject matter. I also don't think he gives a shit what I think. So go on, Snyder. You know what I mean? Like, one small girl is not enjoying your film. He's going to be okay. I just don't think it's ever going to be a thing for me.
Yeah. The next scene, this is where Bruce finally meets Barry. And I love this sequence because Barry's really funny in this entire sequence. I think he's watching Rick and Morty on one TV, and then on another TV, he's watching a Blackpink music video. So I thought that was
I saw
really
the
funny.
Blackpink music video. I didn't see the Rick and Morty, though.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny when Bruce throws a Batarang and we get the first look at what it's like for him jumping into the Speed Force. I love that entire sequence. He's like, "You're the Batman," and then they get into the Mercedes.
I love when he asks him if he can keep the Batarang. Yeah,
I would keep it.
I would definitely keep it.
And he asks Bruce, like, "What are your superpowers again?" I'm rich. That was, I think, one of the funniest parts of the film. Because, one, I really appreciated the fact that the Flash is constantly talking about being hungry. Mm-hmm. And I really personally appreciated his line, "I'm basically a snack hole now." That made me laugh. I'm going to use that from now on because it's so who I am as a person. But then when he asks him, like, "Well, what's your superpower?" And he's like, "I'm rich." I laughed out loud for like the third time in the film. Probably the last time, honestly. But I really enjoyed it. I laugh every time Steppenwolf talks.
Yes, but I mean, like, that's not like a good laugh. Yeah. That's like every time they said Mother Box, I giggled, but it wasn't like good. Because that one line, like, "The mother box is ready. Touch it when she gets to the fluid." Like, I can't. Like, that's it for me. And that's when they're, like, waking up Superman. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that scene, that's one of those scenes where I really want to like Ezra Miller as Flash. Because he's doing a great job. Like, he's giving it his all. It's just not working.
Yeah. It's just not working for what he's given. I don't think the jokes he were given, not all of them were good.
Well, and it's also very difficult to single out one character as your comic relief.
I think they were trying to give everyone quips at some point. Well, Alfred quips.
Oh, I don't even want to talk about Alfred. Oh my God.
I'm going to talk about Batman quipping much later on in this review.
I want to talk about, at some point, how bad all of the costumes are, but specifically Alfred.
I actually like his
bad.
costume.
He is dressed like a British man about to go fox hunting. None of the colors match. It's awful.
Hey, he looks terrible. To be a soldier.
It's bad, James. It's bad. He is terrible. What did I write? He wears cargo pants and a military sweater the whole movie. There's no warmth or love between Jeremy Irons' Alfred and Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne. They don't seem to even like one another.
I disagree. I love their chemistry. I think it's awesome. I think Jeremy Irons is as good as Michael Caine. I think Michael Caine is only better because we have more screen time and he was given better dialogue. But their banter between them, I think it is quintessential Bruce and Alfred.
I think Jeremy Irons may be my least favorite.
Bullshit.
Alfred ever. I prefer the guy from Batman and Robin.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I think Jeremy Irons is a terrible Alfred.
Oh, man.
And I don't think Jeremy Irons is a terrible actor. They just didn't do anything with him. I have a lot of problem just from the jump. Like, one thing that I should say, like, it's hard for me to enjoy Justice League because I never enjoyed Ben Affleck as Batman.
Not even in BVS?
God, no.
What?
Awful.
As far as the action goes and everything that he does in the Batsuit is 10 times better than anything Bale did.
Oh, God, no. Bale is the best Batman that has ever existed.
I think he's the best Batman-Bruce Wayne combination.
For sure.
But the Batman stuff isn't Bale's fault. That's Nolan's fault and his second unit team, because I think the fight sequences suck in the Nolan trilogy. I think they all suck. In BVS, I prefer the Batsuit. I prefer what they do with his voice, the different costume changes.
I hate his voice. That's so funny. Like, his voice as Batman is so grating and annoying to me. His face, like his chin area in the cowl, like, I will say that the only Batman that Ben Affleck is better than is George Clooney.
You are out of your mind. That warehouse sequence, that fight sequence is amazing. That is
Which movie is the warehouse sequence in?
BVS. That is the best Batman fight sequence we've ever gotten in any movie.
I don't agree
Hands
with you.
down.
No.
There is nothing that is even remotely close to that.
And why is Batman so old at the creation of the Justice League? Is that like that in the comics? Because I don't feel like it is.
No, it's just what they wanted for this universe.
No, they wanted Ben Affleck and he's old.
That's true. That's probably true. But Zack wanted a more grizzled, older, like, just hardened Batman that didn't care anymore, and he just started fucking killing people, and that's what he wanted. He wanted Dark Knight Returns.
Wanted a Batman who kills people with guns. And
he wanted Dark Knight Returns in his own way, and he just
I feel like he just missed the mark. I actually, like, am a really big Ben Affleck fan. Mm-hmm. And I always have been. Like, I'm talking Good Will Hunting came out, and I was like, Ben Affleck's better than Matt Damon. And people were like, what is the matter with you? Are you smoking crack? And I'd be like, because Ben Affleck was made fun of so much as being the stupid friend to Matt Damon. And they, like, won some award for the writing, and people were like, yeah, he probably sat on the couch farting
they won the Oscar
while Matt Damon wrote it. And I was like, no, he's really good. And I think he's a fantastic director.
He's a better writer and director than he is actor to me.
Oh, have you seen The Accountant or Argo or those kind of movies? Like, he's so fantastic. So for me to say I don't like him as Batman is actually painful for me.
I hate him as Batman in this movie because I think he is so checked out in this movie. There are essentially 3 phases of the Batman character. You have the Bruce Wayne that the public sees, the billionaire playboy. Then you have the Bruce Wayne that Alfred sees, that's in Wayne Manor, in the Batcave, all of that stuff. And then you have Batman, the being that he truly is, that he becomes when that cowl is on and he's in the streets. I think that in Justice League, he's none of those 3 versions. He's Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne and also in the Batsuit.
Yeah,
I think he's completely checked out in this movie, and it really, really pissed me off.
I just wish that they would have gotten him a tailor for his clothes, because none of that shit fits.
Let's talk about the sequence where Steppenwolf goes to get the mother box from Atlantis. I want
to talk about why the fuck Aquaman litters on his way into the ocean.
He does.
Like, come on. And also, Mamoa didn't call that out. This is a guy who'll jump on Chris Pratt's Instagram feed and tell him, don't use a single-use water bottle. And he's fine with throwing a glass bottle into the ocean as he jumps in? Bro.
I have another problem with that whole thing. He brings people fish. So you're telling me that he's actively killing fish to bring to surface dwellers? I think not.
I understand that he doesn't know if he's of the land or of the sea, but like...
Yeah.
You can't.
It's like, I get it. Like, you're trying to save people who have jobs. They need to work. They need to live and eat and survive. But...
Does he know the fish's names? Is he talking to them? I have
questions.
I have questions, too. I had a lot of questions about him just straight up effing littering. I've seen the movies all out of order and had seen Aquaman first, which made Justice League a little bit confusing to me.
Because he has no development. He has one-liners.
And... I don't know that they even did that great of a job in Aquaman of kind of retconning the fact that he had met Mira briefly during the Steppenwolf thing. Like, they sort of discuss it.
Yeah.
And they do an okay job, but I was confused in this scene.
I hate that Amber Heard is Mira.
I love her.
She is a god-awful actress, and if she wasn't as hot as she is, she would not be working in Hollywood.
I feel like she was a shining point in Aquaman.
You are out of your mind. She's fine.
Not that red hair wig they put her in, but...
She's fine in Aquaman because James Wan is an incredible director and he made sure that she did a good job. But she's a horrible actress, which is why she's not in good movies. Because she's horrible.
I really I'm not that familiar with her work, I gotta be honest. I mean, I know she's like the underage girlfriend in Pineapple Express, and she's the first zombie chick in Zombieland. But I'm not super familiar with her. I don't have much of an opinion on her.
She's in Drive Angry with Nick Cage, which is
I don't think
awesome
that movie was good.
Yeah.
I've not seen it, but I feel
scale.
like maybe it wasn't supposed to be good. I did really enjoy her as Mira. I really like Mira. I always did. In the comics, I always thought Mira is so much cooler
Mira's
than Aquaman.
Great.
And I liked her. I didn't have any problems with her.
I think she sucks. Her line delivery sucks. I hate how dull everything looks underwater. I hate that they have to create this fucking water bubble in order to talk to each other.
Because I was kind of like, I feel like the Atlanteans don't have to do that to have conversations.
Especially since you saw Aquaman first, because they don't do that in Aquaman. It's completely different. The way they communicate, the way they move underwater, the color palette, it's completely different from this lifeless, dull nonsense.
I know.
And I fucking hate it.
That's the first thing I thought when she made that bubble so that they could converse inside of it. I was like, but how do they talk to each other normally?
They have to create bubbles.
I'm like, what? But she's the only one that can do that.
It's so
and the
dumb.
underwater fight scene with Steppenwolf is terrible.
Yeah.
Awful. And also, like, nothing is explained about Aquaman at all in the film. There's no character development, essentially just like Cyborg and just like Flash. Actually, I think Flash gets more explanation than the other two. Because this is the scene where Mira explains that he's Queen Atlanta's son.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, she just left me on the doorstep. I don't think Jason Momoa acts very well in this film.
He's not directed well.
He's
That's
just
the
like
problem.
Nothing's going well for him at all.
Having a good director counts a lot. Telling an actor, hey, let's try that again.
Just saying no maybe once or twice.
Let's try that again, say no, and then use the right cuts in the movie.
Yeah. That whole scene between them, if I hadn't seen Aquaman, I would have been like, oh my God, she's terrible, he's terrible, they're terrible, this is awful. But I actually liked them and thought they had cute chemistry in Aquaman, to an extent. I don't feel like a lot of people have chemistry with Jason Momoa. Like, he's a difficult person. I didn't really feel like that into him and Queen of Dragons chemistry in Game of Thrones. I feel like he's a hard actor to have chemistry with. Anyways, yeah, that whole underwater scene just sucked.
Yeah, it's really bad. And then immediately after that, we get Steppenwolf putting the second mother box into whatever the fuck that
in fake Sokovia?
Yeah, wherever the fuck it is.
This is where I was like, this is definitely Whedon, and he's just doing Age of Ultron again.
It's ridiculous. I know, Mother, the unity. You must be complete.
Yeah, that's called an orgasm. He's talking about sex to a mother box and talking about sex all the whole movie. Like, it's
Bring
crazy.
Bring me the last one for the unity.
Well, and then it starts turning...
Darkseid.
Well, and like, does he work for Darkseid?
100%, yes.
Okay, I'm not going to work for my niece or my nephew when I grow up. Let me tell you that.
You work for the person that's stronger than you.
I know that he owns Apocalypse. I get it, but I also didn't like how they essentially turned it all into the Upside Down from Stranger Things.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's exactly what it looked like, was just the Upside Down from Stranger Things.
Yeah, I have so many fucking problems with this movie.
Yes, there's so much to pick apart. Like, you could just talk for hours about one aspect of it being bad. Like, it's so derivative to make it look exactly the same as someone else's work. It really feels like a committee instead of a director with a vision.
Yep. They have 3 editors on this movie.
Which is unnecessary. How does one person know what the other 2 people are doing?
They don't.
They don't. Obviously, we've seen the movie.
Next up, we have Bruce and Barry get off the jet and they meet Diana. This was my least favorite shot of them zooming in on Diana.
Yes.
This is the one where they the low crane shot right into her ass,
and her booty is just like the entire left hand side of the screen.
Dude, are you fucking kidding me?
In
right now?
again, ill-fitting leather pants.
I'm like, dude, this is you're going too far.
Yeah.
This is way too far. But then Barry gets the really funny line because Diana introduces herself. He's like, hi, I'm Diana.
Yes. And then he's still like staring at her. I will say too, like, he does some funny things kind of on the side of a scene. So he'll be like not the focal point of a scene and he'll do a face or something that is very funny. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, he definitely understood his role as comedic relief in the film. It doesn't always work, but he gave it his all, and I respect that.
Yeah, we get the bat signal. Wonder Woman, Batman, and Flash go to see Commissioner Gordon. That's where Cyborg shows up.
We didn't talk about that clandestine meeting on the street between Diana and Cyborg.
We didn't, because it's pointless and terrible.
And why did she change into that's not even a low V. That's a titty shelf shirt. It's so degrading.
I skipped over it because I see it as being completely pointless.
Well, I understand that she had to make a connection with Cyborg, so that was what it was. But also the idea that she's been in mourning for Steve Trevor for like 100 or 50 years.
100 years.
100 years, man.
I get it. Chris Pine's great looking. He has amazing blue eyes.
He's a fine looking man.
You have a duty. Yeah. Like, get your shit together.
So she's been doing nothing for those 100 years?
Nothing.
That's upsetting.
Like, much like the terrorist thing, she might stop, like, really bad things here and there, but she doesn't make her presence known. She doesn't do anything.
Well, and that's like the only character development she has the whole movie. It's a very surface film. There's no real emotion in it at any point. I have
questions, though.
Yeah,
so
I got questions, too.
Wonder Woman 1984 obviously takes place in 1984.
I hope so. Or that title's stupid.
So I'm guessing that Steve Trevor is only temporarily back with her? Like something else? I think it's because
Maxwell Lord brings him back from the dead. Because Maxwell Lord's whole thing is, I will give you your deepest desires. And I think that he gives her that. And that to defeat Maxwell Lord, it will mean that Chris Pine is going away. Steve Trevor is going to have to go away, and that's something she'll have to do. I think he makes Cheetah, too, somehow.
That's a good point, dude.
That's just what I was thinking. Just knowing, like, the character of Maxwell Lord and, like, kind of his whole thing is, like, I'll give you your deepest desire. Like, if you give Wonder Woman her deepest desire, which is to have Steve Trevor back, would she fight you knowing she'd lose him? It's smart. Like, that's a smart villain.
Your theory is a lot better than mine.
Oh, what was yours?
I mean, I thought he came back because, let's say, the explosion was so big. The explosion combined with lightning striking the plane at the same time, like, they can retcon it and say that lightning struck the plane at the exact time of the explosion and it blew him through time and he landed in 1984.
Oh, that would be interesting.
I was like, sure, I would believe that. That's something that would happen in comics.
I guess that means that he would have to die again in 1984, though. He'd have to sacrifice himself again for Diana. Because we know he's not around.
Yeah, he's clearly not around.
Well, at least that means that she didn't go 100 years crying over that one moment in World War II, though. Or World War I. She saw him again in the 80s. He had a fanny pack. It was great.
I think that movie's going to be so good. I can't fucking wait.
I love the gold suit.
Yes, dude. It was so good.
So amazing in the comics. I mean, they did like a full 2-page panel spread of them in the gold suits, you know what I mean? And I was like, yes. Like, Wonder Woman is just like, she was my mom's favorite comic. The Flash and the Spider-Man were my dad's. He could never pick. But my mom was always Wonder Woman, so I grew up with a lot of Wonder Woman. And I think that's also why I want so badly to like Ezra Miller, is because I grew up with a lot of Flash, too. But
yeah, Flash is my second favorite DC hero.
I know. It's a shame, because I think the movie, it was happening too early. It was rushed, and they didn't spend enough time with the characters. They just went for... I mean, you can literally watch the movie on mute and know what's going on.
Probably.
I did that actually accidentally for 10 minutes because my dog sat on the remote.
It's pathetic, but moving on, this is where we get... we're starting to get the Justice League together, and they all go to see Commissioner Gordon. I thought that was a cool sequence with him turning on the signal, everyone coming there, and then they kind of just leave when he turns his back, and Flash is still there.
Yeah, that was funny.
So they just kind of left, huh?
That's
how rude.
I always think it's weird, though, that J.K. Simmons is there, Gordon, and he was also... Spider-Man's boss in one of the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Everybody just uses this guy because he looks like someone's boss. Like, that's like his niche thing in Hollywood. Is like, I could be the boss.
Have you...
I have a manager face, and I also sell insurance. That's his thing.
So they finally meet up. They finally see Steppenwolf. And this is where I start to not really like Barry as much, because... he's just a giant pussy, honestly. It's just like, dude, I get it that you're scared, but you're a hero. Like, do what needs to be done. But we don't have any idea
what he's been doing before this. I actually thought it was really funny.
Well, he tells us. He kind of just shows up and pushes people.
I thought that line was really funny when he was like, I think it's great that you guys are ready to do battle. Up until now, I've just kind of shown up and pushed a few people.
Do that again.
And then Batman's like, save one. And he's like, what? And he's like, save one.
Which one?
Just one. It was like, there's such a stupid exchange.
This is the worst that Cyborg CGI looks in the entire movie. This entire sequence is terrible. I love the Nightcrawler.
I was going to ask you if the Nightcrawler is a big thing from the comics, because I don't have any reference point for it.
I don't have any reference point.
And I was just kind of like, okay.
I think it's really cool, though. There's a lot cut out of this sequence. Again, you can tell from the trailers, there's a lot that belongs in here that just doesn't happen. I love the Flash sequence when Diana is jumping down for her sword. The score kicks in. It looks really cool. The slow-mo sequence, even though it's dull and colorless.
Yes, very dull and colorless.
It's still pretty cool. And
why does he trip, though?
because they went for the bit. It was funny.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it'll be cool if he trips over his feet, which he does throughout the whole movie because he just runs. He looks so stupid when he runs.
He looks like he doesn't know how to run. I've said it before. It was just such a random thing because I love that moment. I love watching the Flash in action. Mm-hmm. It's why I love the show. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a cool thing in the way that they do it when he, like, just very lightly touches the sword and it goes and her hand wraps around it and he's smiling and then he trips.
Such a good scene, and it's ruined immediately. It's ruined
as soon as he trips. He could have just gotten out of the fast. You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't have changed anything about the scene except to make it better.
Yeah, and then they save themselves because Steppenwolf does something. He breaks the floor or some shit, and then Barry falls on top of Diana.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was so funny.
I mean, I get Barry's infatuation with her in the way that he acts, because he is a teenager, like early 20s, late teens, something like that.
Yeah.
You could tell me Ezra Miller was 35 years old, and I'd be like, makes sense. But I think Barry's like 20?
That's what I would say. Like, in that, like, early 20s thing.
So, obviously, she's gorgeous.
Yeah. I mean, Diana Prince, she's the most beautiful woman in DC Comics. One of my favorite Steppenwolf lines is, "You're a distraction. Mother is calling." I'm like, who is writing these lines, bro?
Wrote that shit? All of the stuff that I read about the Mother Box, like, most of those lines come out of this scene.
I'm like, was that Chris Terrio or Joss Whedon? Like, which one of you wrote this awful line?
It's terrible. Almost every single one of Steppenwolf's... No, every single one of Steppenwolf's line is an idiotic thing to say.
Aquaman shows up.
Aquaman showing up and pushing back the wall. Oh, my God.
Again, dull. The colors are so dull and so boring.
I hate his costume.
Again, his costume is super dull and boring.
It's like someone put a sepia filter over the whole movie.
Yes,
it's terrible. Like someone over-filtered for Instagram.
It's ridiculous.
And I also really don't like Flash's costume in the film.
I hate his suit
It's really
the most.
weird looking.
I hate it. Like, it technically makes sense. Like, when Bruce is talking to him about, like, what the suit is made out of, like, it's made from parts. It obviously looks like a suit that he put together.
Right.
Because he stole parts from, like, NASA and all of these different places. That's why it looks like that. And in future movies, he will have a different suit.
He'll have a better suit.
This is the prototype. I just hate it.
It's like the Spider-Man's prototype versus the Spider-Man suit that he gets when he hooks up with Stark, who has the money to build him a good suit. Like, I get that. I understand it. It's also not stated very clearly in the movie that's... Like, you have to watch... I watched the movie 3 times, and I caught it on the 3rd time. That conversation between him and Ben Affleck about... Like, oh yeah, you put this all together. I also have questions about why half of his face is out if he's running so fast that he can pull his own skin off. But whatever. That's not on the movie. That's on the comic book makers.
Yes.
But it's just always a little jarring when you see his suit because it looks very creepy. It's got like a weird,
just don't like it.
Almost like Hellraiser vibe to it.
I don't know. It's just very weird and strange. And then next up we have the family. The random family that we're supposed to care about. We get this stupid throwaway scene with them, and Parademons start showing up. I'm like, I don't care about.
And the little
people.
Girl gets some bug spray.
Yeah, I'm like, who's writing this?
And are there other people here, or is it just this family? Like, did the kids go to school?
There's definitely other people because
but you don't know
Superman
until the very
carries.
end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, why are we only focused on the like? This is a family of 4, and I get that I'm supposed to be invested in them being stuck in this hellscape, but wouldn't it have been a little bit more moving or a little bit, it would have spoken a little bit more to my, like, humanity if we would have shown us the inside of the apartment building and all of these people, you know what I mean? Like this world of people who is trying to live. Oh, I kicked my mic again, you guys. I'm really throwing my hands around. I'm getting crazy. But I mean, it's just, I thought for most of the whole movie that it was just these 4 people that lived right next to an abandoned, like, nuclear power plant.
Yeah, it's so... I mean, they do have a scene where they tell you that there's not a lot of people living in this area, right? But there's still people that refuse to leave, much like a lot of different places in real life. But it's just like, we don't have time to dedicate to making Superman and the Justice League save a lot of people, but we'll show one family...
One scene.
And that explains everything.
We know there's people there, so we're invested.
It's so fucking stupid. So we get back to the Bat Cave. Barry is running around. It's like, it's a cave.
Which made me laugh.
A bat cave.
I was like, this isn't like a cave. How many windows in caves have you seen?
Yeah,
but
it's
whatever.
not like a cave at all.
There's some exposed brick in a corner.
And I really like this sequence because this is where Bruce talks about reanimating Superman, and him and Diana have this really cool argument, and I liked how that argument went back and forth. It's like, we need him. We need Superman as a symbol, and Diana's like, we don't know what that's going to do to him. We don't know what's going to happen when he wakes up. We don't know if he'll have his soul. We don't know what he's going to be like. You're messing with powers that you don't understand.
I like how she and Aquaman, who is dressed atrociously, he looks like not Steven Tyler. He looks like he looks like how Mamoa dresses on his Instagram feed, which I follow. You look great, Mamoa, never change. But he's got like 2 scarves on. One of them's tied around his... It's a terrible look. It looks like he showed up in his own clothes, and they were like, leave it. But I like how Aquaman and Wonder Woman are on this side of the fence. Cyborg and Ben Affleck are on this side of I should have called him Batman, are on this side of the fence. Nobody knows what side of the fence Ezra Miller's on because he's just there for comedic relief. And they still just move forward with the plan. Even though it's like a 50-50 split, and Aquaman and Wonder Woman have great points about why they shouldn't bring a dead, super-powered alien back to life, they're still going to do it.
Yeah.
It's wild that that's where the movie goes, man. It's wild when you think about it, that they're really going to go bring this, like, hellscape technology of the mother box over to where Doomsday was birthed to bring back the dead body of Superman.
It makes sense, but yeah.
It's so creepy, though.
Let's talk about that scene where Barry and Victor dig up Clark's body.
This is one of the few scenes in the movie.
This out of the movie.
I love this scene, and this is one of the few scenes in the movie that really feels like Whedon to me. It reminds me of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I liked it. It really does, yeah. I liked this kind of, because that's kind of what I think of like Buffy when I think of Whedon and his work on like Buffy or Firefly or even Dollhouse back in the day, was these very grim situations, but with very human humor in it. Human humor, that's hard to say. But like Cyborg is so lonely, and Barry Allen is so socially awkward in this version.
Yeah.
And they're having a real moment. And Barry Allen is so socially awkward that he keeps trying to fist pump with Cyborg. And it makes me laugh. It makes me giggle. I liked it. It felt like character development for these two characters that, like, one of them has had none so far. And it kind of brought it round at the very end of the movie when you see Cyborg giving Flash a fist bump, which I appreciated.
I thought that was so cheap. I thought that was the cheapest setup and plant and execution I've ever seen. Like,
see,
it's
I liked
so
it because
boring.
it was very human. And I feel like DC movies, for the most part, the Snyder films, lack any feel of humanity. Like, these never feel like people with feelings. Like, they just seem like they're really sad because their boyfriend died 100 years ago, and that's all we get.
Superman had feelings, okay?
God, he had so many.
But I thought, it's not like I hated it, but we're trying to make a film 2 hours. That's what you keep? Just so that you can have a fist bump at the end for a forced scene that you haven't earned?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. But let's get into reanimating Superman. So they dig up his body, they bring it to the ship, and we get the Superman score, which is one of my favorite scores ever. I love Hans Zimmer. We get that score, and it's pretty much Superman Lives. Yeah. There's a part of BVS that was the death of Superman, and now we have Superman Lives. Again, I like the sequence where they drop the mother box into the fluid.
Once it touches the fluid, you have to charge it. Charge it up.
So he charges the mother box perfectly as soon as it touches the fluid.
I mean, he hits it right at that spot. You know what I mean? Like that good spot. That's so weird.
We reanimate Superman, which I think is a cool sequence. He shoots out of the roof, and there he is. Now, this entire sequence, you can tell, is reshoots because the CGI removal of the mustache is everywhere, and it's really distracting. Now, this is where my favorite sequence in the entire movie is. This is where he's beating the shit out of Cyborg, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman, and Barry tries to run around him. The score kicks in, and then he just looks to the side and is like, wait, holy shit, how are you as fast as me right now? I love that.
Is that like something from the comic? Because I don't remember Superman being like as fast as Flash.
So Barry is definitely faster, but Superman is very fast.
He can keep up.
To the point where he can keep up. And that's because he never hits Barry.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
he's not as fast. But he can keep up with him.
I liked it too.
Awesome.
I liked when his little blue eyes cut over at Barry, and Barry's like, whoa, shit. Overall, that's a very weird scene, though. Because...
In what way?
I don't know. It just... The editing of it feels a little strange. Aquaman's heart beating in his chest... being the thing that set Superman off. And what was going on when Superman made Cyborg do something?
Yeah, it's the technology inside him, much like Blue Beetle, it's just trying to protect itself. So it sees Superman as a threat, hence trying to destroy it.
And he's not mentally in charge of his cyborg body. It's just responding to a threat.
Exactly.
And so Cyborg's telling Aquaman to calm down because it's ramping up Superman, and then Superman's ramping up and it upsets Cyborg.
Yeah.
See, that makes sense. Didn't pull it out of the movie.
Yeah.
Saw it
I mean,
3
I
times.
get that.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, but I mean, the fight scene's pretty good. I love the back and forth headbutting between Wonder Woman and Spider-Man. Superman. Spider-Man wasn't there. He was not there. I don't want to confuse anybody. He's asleep.
What if, though?
What if? That would be a real crazy what if. If DC was like, put Superman up in one of your what ifs. Go ahead. Would have been so much better. Anyways, I'm back. I liked when he headbutted her directly into the ground.
Yeah. I thought that entire exchange was just really cool. I think... He headbutts her. She shakes it off.
Headbutts him.
Yeah, he shakes it off, and then he's like, all right, cool, I have to do a little bit more to get this done. I'm glad that they never tried to make Wonder Woman stronger than Superman just for, yay, feminism, women, because that's just not how it is. Like, Superman is the strongest
Is he stronger than her?
Oh, yeah, by far.
I don't know. She did pretty good.
I mean, she's supposed to. She is the closest in terms of strength to him, but she should not be stronger. That's not how it is in the comics.
Well, you don't need to go wake up a dead guy if you have someone on the team as strong as him, right? I mean, that's kind of the whole point.
Yeah,
it's like,
but
you need this dude.
He's so much stronger that you needed him, though.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
he's stronger, faster,
it has
laser
to make
eyes,
sense.
freeze breath.
Laser eyes, freeze breath. Come on, man. That's great. The freeze breath scene later in the film made me laugh, though.
Why? I liked it. We'll get there, though. We'll get there. But I really liked it.
Listing off all of his dating app qualities. Freeze breath.
And Bruce brings in the big gun, and Lois comes in because the power of boners is stronger.
Before Lois comes in, Superman is doing the weirdest fucking voice I have ever heard. So he's like holding Batman up, and he's like, "But tell me, do you bleed?" It felt like he was making fun of that terrible Batman voice that Batman does. Like, was that what he was doing? Because it made no sense. I rewound it and listened to it again because I was like, this is disturbing to me. Like, it was so bizarre.
They thought they were so clever. Do you bleed?
Yeah, bringing it back. And you have to remember that shit got said in like a throwaway scene,
which I actually think is one of the most badass scenes in all of BVS, if I'm being perfectly honest.
When the first fight between Batman and Superman,
the first time they just confront each other.
No, you're right.
And he's like, "Tell me, do you bleed? You will." I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, except for the voice.
I love the voice.
I just hate it.
I love the modulator. It makes sense.
I think it's smart to bring Lois into that scene. I mean, that was the only thing.
The power of boners is stronger.
Or the power of your heart or love.
Sure. The same thing.
It's not. A boner and love are not the same thing. We're going to have a conversation when this is over. But I really like the moments where they spend a little bit of time showcasing like any of the characters' actual human feelings. Mm-hmm. And like I mean,
all the Smallville stuff, like when he immediately just takes her to Smallville,
right? And when she's like, farm. "Can we just go, please?" And he's just like, "Yeah." And where does he go? He goes to the farm. And I
love that he just throws Batman to the side.
He's just like, "Get out of here, little bitch."
Dude, before we talk about the Smallville stuff, I hate that Batman quips because he's on the ground and it's such a fucking Joss Whedon scene. He's like, "Oh, something is definitely bleeding." Batman doesn't quip. Stop it.
It's kind of awkward. When I saw it, I was like, that's kind of awkward.
It's not. It's awful. It's terrible. It's all the things that are wrong.
He makes a lot of jokes in this film. And it's just kind of like, none of them land, except for the I'm rich. The I'm rich, I'm honestly glad that that's in the movie because it's funny. But the something's bleeding thing, you could also just take it as not a quip, I guess, and just be like, oh no, something's actually just broken.
Batman wouldn't do that.
I don't know, man. This is not a Batman that I recognize.
he's not in this movie.
No, there's like nothing. Like there's no Batman qualities of him except that he's got really nice cars with, you know, Falcon doors on them.
Yeah. So we get to Smallville and they're having this great, you know, love moment in the fields, and I just can't stop staring at his lip. I just can't stop looking at it. It's just so distracting because, like, if you look at it really closely, like, it's out of sync sometimes.
Yes. It looks like the voice track is ahead or behind of where his lips are moving to because they're trying to CGI match it to the words that are coming out of his mouth after removing a mustache the size of my cat from his face. My actual cat, not my mother box. You know what really tripped me out in that scene, though, what I really, like, spent way too much time thinking about? And again, I know it, I mean, the wardrobe in this film is so bad. They have him in a flannel shirt that doesn't fit, but they've got Lois Lane, a redhead, standing in a green field in a green overcoat over a blue silk shirt.
Hey, she didn't plan to be in the fields.
They didn't plan to put her in a field. Like, it's their job to make sure that the costumes or the wardrobe on screen is not so bad that it takes people out of the scene. And it was terrible. All of the clothes in the movie were terrible. Ill-fitting, the wrong decision, the wrong colors, looked terrible. I don't know where outside of the CGI the money went. It's like they saved it on making sure that no one looked good when they weren't in their costumes.
I don't know. Let's talk about the third act.
Okay.
Let's get into it.
The worst of the film.
Because right here is like, we could talk about when we get back to the Batcave sequence where there's Bruce and Diana are talking. She puts his shoulder back into place.
That was a weird scene. Bruce
tries to quip some more where he's talking to Aquaman and he's like, "Can you like
talk to fish?
Put out like a thing?
You do talk to fish, right?
You talk to fish?
Yeah. And then what does Aquaman say? Like, if the tide turns up strange? I was like, what are you even saying, dude? You don't know what you're doing.
The ocean talks, and he's like, yeah, if the tide turns up strange or some shit, like, I'll let you know.
That's not going to help you find Steppenwolf in Russia.
It's so dumb.
It's such a... And again, like, this kind of goes back to saying, like, we've got 2 hours to work with, and this is what you keep. Yeah. This scene of showing Batman's like beaten up body and Wonder Woman, who all of a sudden has a cape over her costume. That also threw me off. Putting his shoulder back in place in the incorrect way to put a shoulder back in place. They're drinking. He's trying to convince her to be a leader. Like, they're trying to build character development in when it's too late.
Yeah.
Like, we're past the point now.
Yeah. You said it perfectly. It's just too late at this point. And it's like Batman is already preparing to leave. It's just like Ben Affleck. He's done. He was ready to be out. And I would love to talk about that once we're done recapping the entire movie. But I just thought that entire sequence was pointless, which is why I didn't want to talk about it originally, but now we are. But why didn't Ben have a shirtless scene in that moment? Like, why just be in the top thing while he's getting his shoulder put back into place?
Because Ben Affleck was not in the right shape to be shirtless. He should have been. But I think anyone who is slightly aware of Hollywood and gossip knows what Ben Affleck's problems are. And he was deep in those problems when he filmed this movie. Yeah. And he was not in a place where he was interested in putting his heart and soul. I don't think he's ever put his heart and soul into being Batman. I don't know why he took the role. He's done...
I do want to talk about that. I really do. Because it makes sense.
Interviews where he looks... Like, remember Sad Eyes Ben? Mm-hmm. That meme?
I mean, that was press for justice sake. Okay, so let's just talk about it right now, all right? So when he signed on to play Batman, there was multiple reasons. He wanted to do it for his kids. He also wanted to do it because he only did Daredevil because he thought he would never get to be Batman. Now he got the opportunity to do it.
I forgot he was Daredevil.
Yeah, he got the opportunity to do it with Zack Snyder, who I think does an amazing job when it comes to like those visuals that kind of look like splash pages. I think he does a good job of bringing some comic book moments to life. I would want to work with that guy. Ben was also promised being an executive producer on a bunch of movies. He was also promised that he would get to write and direct the Batman series.
Yeah, like...
And none of that stuff happened. Instead, he just got what we got with all of this other stuff, and none of the other things that he was promised is panning out, and he was just done. I would be done too.
And it's very clear that he's done in this film.
Yeah.
Which I'm not I'm not saying that they didn't completely screw him over. They definitely did. But he's just, his whole thing is just so lazy. Mm-hmm. And honestly, the movie is honestly so bad that it's just another piece of it. Like, Justice League didn't fail because Ben Affleck was lazy in it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So he gets away with it. It's fine. But I also think, like, he was very clearly not working out for the movie. I mean, he is not by any means an out of shape older gentleman.
No.
I mean, he's what, 50 years old? 45
something
to 50,
like
somewhere in that range?
Close to 50.
Still very attractive, still in very good shape, although it's, you know, obviously we don't know what's going on internally after all these years of alcoholism, but he's just not superhero. He's not a superhero. Aquaman gets a shirtless scene. Superman gets a shirtless scene. And I mean, again, these are guys who want those scenes too, because they've been working their bodies out to the max. Like, I read an interview with Henry where he was like, yeah, I wanted to show that how much I had been working out. He's like, that's not steroids. When he's in the fields,
I'm like, dude, you have so many muscles on your back. I don't even know
the names
what
of
they are. Yeah.
And I also really appreciated that they let Superman have a hairy chest.
Yeah.
Because you know what? You don't have to wax your superheroes, guys. Like, come on. Like, they're adult men. They have hair on their chest. Like, let this be a thing. It's sexy. But it also looks great on Aquaman with all the tattoos that he's got. You know what I mean? Like, Ben Affleck was clearly just like, I'm not going to do it.
I don't know. It's just sad. It just makes me think sad things. And we briefly cut back to Smallville right before Lois sends Clark to the battle. And I like this sequence. I like this sequence because Lois knows what needs to be done. She lost the love of her life. She got him back, and she's willing to sacrifice everything again because she knows the world is at stake. I really appreciate that.
I love this scene as well. I thought it, you know, I really, really, really couldn't stand the character of, not the character of Lois Lane in the Martha Chronicles, but what was done with her in that film.
She was just a damsel in distress.
She was just a damsel in distress, but she was really great in Man of Steel.
Yes.
And she was good again in this film, as good as you can be in this film. And I liked that scene. I liked when the mom showed up and they had their moment, because Superman is just back from the dead, and I'm glad that they spent a little bit of time on that. Now, given the constraints of the movie, they couldn't spend a lot of time on that. He's got to go fight, but at least they gave him a little bit of time to, like, be a dude who's back from the dead.
He gets to...
Now I wonder if he's like, take that ring off, I'll give it to you later. Anyway.
That's the thing. There was, in the Snyder cut, there is a scene, because she's supposed to be wearing the ring the entire time during the Smallville sequence, and he turns to her and says, so I'll take that as a yes.
Oh, that would have been so cute, though.
That scene exists. It's just not in this cut.
That would have cleared up all of my issues. If he would have said that and she would have sheepishly kind of smiled, like, yeah, like, I would have been like, okay, fine. Instead of making it like this weird thing, like, I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with me, but it's almost like if you're snooping in the dresser and you find the ring and you put it on for the day, except your boyfriend's dead.
I guess,
but,
yeah.
I guess it's not that similar.
So let's get into the third act now. So this is where I feel like the entire movie just takes a fucking dip.
Oh my god, it's so bad.
If it wasn't already dipping, this is where it goes off the rails for me. So we're on this, like, bat carrier thing where the Justice League member gets off of it. Again, you're trying to give us this splash page shot that you haven't earned, and we're on the field and the sky is turning red now, and the Unity Mother it's spreading all over the place, and it kind of looks like Guardians 2. Do you remember when
yes, it does,
when Ego is doing the thing with the planets and it's absorbing everything and changing,
but that was better,
terraforming the planet, because I think they both look stupid.
This is very Stranger Things terraforming, like this. It's just like when Batman's driving through the town and those little, like, smoke snake monsters are chasing him. Like, that's just the upside down. Like, I've seen that. You know what I mean? Is 11 here? Right? Is she here?
Is she gonna help?
Is she would do better than a lot of what's going on.
I felt like there's just some cool moments. I like the Batmobile. I love it when Diana actually finally takes charge, even though it feels forced, because they didn't have enough time to earn her becoming the leader of the Justice League now. And I actually do kind of like the sequences where Aquaman is in the air.
Oh my
just
god,
like
those were terrible.
I enjoyed it, except when he
surfs.
talks.
When he surfs,
that was awesome.
That was awesome. Stupid. He surfs a dead parademon down from the sky through a building. Like, what the fuck?
And then he flicks his hair.
He flicks his hair like a Vidal Sassoon commercial.
I was like, I'll take it. That's comics.
I thought
dude.
it was so stupid. I was like, how would that happen? He's like a water person, and that's air. But I get that they're trying to make a joke out of him surfing. I just moved on. I was like, I can't.
Yeah, that's exactly what they were doing. It's like he's just the surfer guy. Yahoo! It's just
so dumb.
I hate all of his dumb one.
Well, you know what we missed though, when they were on the helicarrier and Aquaman's giving that really weird speech about how hot like Wonder Woman is, and it turns out he's sitting on the lasso.
I wanted to forget it. I really, really didn't, because I hate that sequence. It's like, again, it's like, oh well, if he's sitting on the lasso, we have an excuse to sexualize Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it's funny. Like,
it's like you're so hot. Well, he doesn't say you're hot, but he says something.
He says something like, you're so gorgeous.
Something along those lines. You're so hot.
You're so fierce. I know that, Amazons and Atlanteans used to fight, but that was before my time. And you know what? I don't want to die. He goes on this whole rant. And it's very weird, and it feels very out of place. And then he realizes that he's sitting on the lasso. It didn't hit for me. My husband thought it was funny.
I didn't think it was funny. I was like, oh, he's sitting on the lasso, and now he's telling the truth about everything. And then they reveal it. I'm like, cool. That was a scene.
I do like that Wonder Woman's always fine with the misogyny she experiences at work.
Why wouldn't she be?
You know what I mean? Like, because I don't like when people hit on me when I'm on my job.
It doesn't look like she likes it, but I mean, she is used to it. I mean,
she just kind of rolls her eyes and moves on.
She's been in man's world for a century.
I wish she would have just slapped the piss out of him.
And she's gorgeous. Like, she's used to it.
I think she needs to stand up for all the women who are tired of getting hit on at work and slap that motherfucker in the mouth.
Like, it's not okay, but I mean, like,
it's not. No, you were right. It's not okay. Period.
It's not. But
she's just like, I guess I better let them put this camera up my skirt.
God.
There's 2 more shots like that in the final scene. They're and the thing is like, they're just aggressive. That's why you notice them. It's like crane shots and really like fast movements to that butt.
Yeah, it's like there are scenes where she lands in place and the camera is just perfectly ready for her ass.
Almost like she lands on it, almost. You know what I mean? Like, it's bizarre. It's a bizarre decision to make.
Yeah, but it's the third act. I didn't take much notes for the third act because it's a very generic third act.
Yeah.
Whatever you think would happen in a third act of a superhero movie happens in this. They keep cutting back to the family that I'm supposed to care about. They fight parademons all over the place. People keep making quips. They
quips
do team up shit
land.
sometimes. Yeah, they do like team up shit, like Cyborg catches Aquaman and he's like, we're not done yet, and he's like, oh rad, and then that's when he throws him.
Weird.
I'm like, dude,
Aquaman's all right, and then when they do finally beat Steppenwolf, Cyborg's booyah pissed me off.
Oh my god, because it wasn't earned.
Was not earned.
Right before they defeat Steppenwolf, this is the thing. Steppenwolf says, you're all too weak to see the truth, and then this is where Superman shows up. Ooh. And he's like, I believe in truth, but I'm also a big fan of justice.
I was so mad.
My God.
I think I popped a blood vessel rolling my eyes. It was so awful.
That was an executive note where it's like, well, we need Superman to be truth and justice and the American way. He has to save people.
He has to literally say the name of the title, too. We got to get him to say justice at some point.
I'm also a big fan of justice.
It's like in the Avengers when they're like, we need to go avenge the Earth. It's like that shit. Like, we all know the title of the movie. We saw it on our ticket. We get it, dude. Stop. I did like, I liked it, I think, against my will almost. Like, I was so sad during the final act that when Cyborg and Superman team up to pull apart the mother boxes and stop that unity, and he's like, cool, because I really like being alive. And Cyborg's like, me too.
They didn't earn it.
I was like, what kind of emotional growth has Cyborg gone through that he's gotten to this point? Like, okay, cool. I'm glad you don't want to die anymore.
Because Ray Fisher, he emotes well in that scene, but there is no development besides his bitching in the beginning where it's like, okay, would you just prefer to be dead?
Well, yeah, and it didn't even come across as like suicidal or depressive. It just was like a sad teenager. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I want to be alive too. And I'm like, but, were you going through something? something deeper than they gave you. Like, and then when they finally do break him apart and they're both laying on the ground laughing, and Superman's like, I take it back, I wish I were dead. I was like, that is funny.
What?
And I am gonna laugh because I'm so sad right now that I need anything to change.
I didn't think it was funny. It's like, why did anyone think that would be funny? You just said that you wanted to live after being dead, and because you got hit by a shockwave, you're ready to die again?
Yeah, the whole thing, I mean, I get the joke, I understand it. It was just out of place. Almost every line in the fight sequence is out of place. What is Batman doing most of the time, too? I feel like he's just not there.
He's shooting.
He's shooting the parademon guns, yeah.
And in the trailers, I was excited because I remember in the comics, I remember watching, I believe this was happening on Superman, the animated series. No, this was Justice League, the animated series, where Superman beats the shit out of parademons and he actually survives a one-on-one fight with Darkseid. And Darkseid, acknowledges that a human was able to slightly get the better of him in one area. I was so excited to see this, and
he's gone.
It's bullshit.
He's not in the frames at all. He saves Flash from tripping, because, you know, Flash sucks and can't stop tripping. And then he's shooting a parademon gun and it seizes up on him. Like, that's... And then he has a quip with Superman, where Superman says, I thought you didn't like me. And he goes, I don't like...
Batman would not do that. Batman would not do that.
That's all Batman does the whole time.
It just makes me so angry.
They really leaned into Batman has no powers in this movie, which is so sad because that's the best part about Batman.
Exactly.
He's braver than most of the people with power.
Exactly. It's so infuriating, everything about Batman in this movie. One of the sequences that I also really liked in the third act is when Barry and Clark are running side by side. Well, Superman's flying, but when they're running side by side, we're gonna go save the people.
Yeah.
And Flash helps the people in the truck, the family that we're supposed to care about, and Superman is carrying this entire apartment building. And then I don't know what the language is, so I'm not gonna butcher it, but whatever Barry says.
So here's the thing. Barry says Dostoevsky, which is a Russian playwright. And what he tries to say is Do svidaniya, which is goodbye in Russian. Sure. I laughed at that because I thought it was funny. Because he takes a second to think, and then he says it's either a playwright. No, I'm so sorry. It's just a novel author. But he says the writer's name instead of the Do svidaniya. I thought that was cute.
Okay.
But I mean, if you don't have any idea what the shit just happened, it's not cute, so it's not worth it. You know what I mean? Like, for the 3% of people who are going to get it.
And then they all team up again to beat up Steppenwolf, and then Superman uses his freeze breath to freeze the axe, and Wonder Woman flips, and then she uses her sword and breaks the axe in half because it breaks from the ice and
from the freeze breath.
Yeah.
Would swipe right for the freeze breath.
And then apparently...
Well, then he gets afraid, and the parademons come, which was the laziest way to deal with the main villain. It didn't even make sense.
Why not just kill him?
Like, here's my thing. Why didn't they just win?
Yeah.
You know, like, they technically didn't win. They technically didn't do anything, like, to beat him except make him afraid that he might lose, and then his parademons kicked his own ass.
Yeah, and then it's like, well, do they eat him now?
Right. Were they eating him?
Who sent the boom tube?
How did the boom tube come?
I have so many questions.
Well, and also, like... I guess none of the Justice League members were afraid at any point during the fight because the parademons weren't biting them. But you can be afraid while you're fighting. Like, that's okay. Like, that's so many questions. And the fear thing was mentioned in the very beginning of the movie and then came back in this scene. Yeah. Useless. That is a useless setup.
Yeah. I mean, they bring it up a couple times. When Steppenwolf has all of the Star Labs employees hostage.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
He's like, the stench of your fear is making my parademons hungry, mother.
It's so good, man. Don't ever do that. Don't do that shit to the lady in your life.
Every time he says mother, I just can't stop.
He's got a real laughing. Psycho thing to him, you know what I mean? Like, he's like the movie Psycho, where the kid's like dressing up like his mother. He's got kind of that feel for him. They could have explored that. I was shocked to learn that was an actual actor in heavy CGI makeup doing that.
It was just voice, wasn't it?
He was there. He was emoting. He was physically there on set acting with them, and they didn't keep anything that he did. They just they completely green screened over it.
Good job, guys.
Because when you look up, I forget the actor's name, but when you look him up...
Isn't his name... Is Kieran Hines? Isn't that how you pronounce it?
I believe so. He's a very good actor.
Very good.
Very good actor. I've seen him in many things. When I looked him up, I was shocked that was who was playing Steppenwolf. And they were like, no, I mean, he did everything that we wanted, and we highly CGI'd his voice. Not CGI'd his voice. Highly CGI'd his face and his body. Took most of the motion capture stuff he did and toned it down, and then modulated his voice.
Yeah. It's sad.
And honestly, he's the real winner of the movie because nobody knows he was in it.
So he gets pulled away. His helmet falls.
Yeah, his little Viking hat falls out of the boom tube.
And then we get that it should have been an epic shot of the Justice League standing above the wreckage while the sun is rising, I guess.
But it's not an epic shot.
Their capes are flowing. That's what I'm saying. It's supposed to be. Their Batman and Superman capes are flowing in the wind in slow-mo. We get the score. Flash and Cyborg do the fist bump. It's supposed to be this epic shot of the Justice League, the beginning of the Justice League. And then the thing that pisses me off the most about this movie is that it's earned this great ending with the voiceover. We see the bat signal goes up, so Batman goes back to work, and we see do we see Wonder Woman? I don't know what she's doing. We see
she has the bank heist or the art heist, whatever it is, and she's talking to the kids, like she's finally coming out of her shell and making friends.
Aquaman looks like he's headed to Atlantis, or he's just doing something in the sea.
He's just swimming with a whale, essentially. Like, that's all he's doing. He's just on a Friday. Cyborg
is upgrading himself and working with his dad. Yes, I thought that was cool with him at Star Labs. The Flash is running after some bad guys in the street because he's running past all of these cop cars.
Doesn't he also go and tell his dad that he got the job?
Yes, he goes to tell his dad that he got the job.
Billy Crudup kills it in that scene. I want to see Billy Crudup as his dad. I want to see that. I
really hope that still happens. And then the bat signal goes up, and the final scene, I was okay until we see Clark Kent just walking the streets like he's headed to the Daily Planet. They had a public funeral.
for
Clark
him.
Kent.
What are they going to say?
I was on vacation.
I didn't die. I was in a coma in a hospital and they misidentified me. Like, what are they going to say? And are you really going to tell me?
It's like, you're so dull looking, Smallville. I'm so surprised. I'm not surprised. I don't know.
But, like, this is a beautiful man with a pair of glasses on, who probably a couple people think this dude might be Superman. And he comes back to life at the exact same time that Superman comes back to life.
It's so fucking
You know what they also don't do? They don't technically destroy the mother boxes.
No.
Or show you.
Don't they just hide them again?
They don't show you that they're hiding. We have no idea. They might still be in fake Sokovia.
Who gives a shit?
Who cares? Honestly, if these are our heroes, we deserve to be killed.
That's the thing, again, like, you're just in these confines of this runtime of 2 hours, not a second more. I need that exposition. Well, what the fuck happens to the mother boxes? Do we split them up again? Does one go back to Themyscira? Does one go back to Atlantis? Do we put the one of man
back in a hole somewhere? Because they never even said where the shit that was.
Yeah, and it's like, well, if it was buried by man in secret, did they all just take that secret to the grave? Did they all kill themselves?
Had a cyborg find it?
I mean, that makes more sense because his energy signature is pretty much the same as a mother box, so he would just be able to find another energy signature.
That? Why is he's Kryptonian, isn't he? Like, all cyborg? Of his stuff is from the Kryptonian ship, right?
Well, okay, so it depends on what you're reading and when you're reading it. What did the movie say? In the movie, it's from a mother box because Silas Stone finds, well, I don't know if he found it, but that mother box ended up at Star Labs. And after Victor got into the accident, in order to reanimate him, he tried to use the mother box to reanimate him and give him cybernetic enhancements.
I thought he was made from Kryptonian materials.
Nope.
left over from the Doomsday fight.
Yep, it's all from the mother box.
That makes way better sense. I just am like, I saw the movie 3 times.
That's why he's able to connect with it, why he's able to break them apart, why he's able to track them and all of these different things, because he is made of the mother box.
I wish I would have realized that when I was watching the film.
And that's why Steppenwolf says, you were made of her.
Oh, the mother box. You were made of her. Like, okay, calm it down now. Literally anything else. The 3 cubes of terror. I would have taken that over mother boxes.
Yeah. I don't know. And then it fades to black, and then we get the scene where we're gonna have Flash versus Superman. We get the race.
I actually didn't see this.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't stay until...
I taped it off of TBS. I'm not spending a dime on this shit.
But yeah, we get the beginning of the race anyway, and I thought that was cool. That's a nice little Easter egg for the comic book fans, you know what I mean? And it just ends. And that was Justice League. Yay!
It was my favorite part when it ended.
Ending credits. Thank you. Bye.
So I had it sort of talked up to me quite a bit. Like, people were like, "You're not going to like this film." Like, even you were like, "It's so..." you got to tell me as soon as you see it, because it's so like. And I'm not a DC person. Like, I love comics. Mm-hmm. DC is probably like my 3rd favorite comic line. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a much bigger Marvel person. I like DC's like dark stuff, like their Constantine, and when they, because I think DC owned Vertigo as well, and I like most of the stuff that comes out of Vertigo. But a lot of these movies by DC are just bad. Like, their success rate is so low compared to Marvel, which is funny because DC's always been a more lucrative comic line than Marvel.
I think their stories are better than Marvel. I think DC comic stories go deeper than Marvel stories in some aspects. But that's just where I started. I started reading DC comics, and then I got into Marvel eventually. So maybe it's just because I just know more about DC. But I just feel like their stories are better, their characters are better. In a lot of aspects, Marvel's characters are just kind of copies of DC characters, if we're being honest.
There's a lot of copying back and forth, and I think we've just come to the point where we don't even know where it started.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like, because Thanos is a copy of Darkseid. Right. But, what is it? Wade Wilson is the original of Slade Wilson.
No, Slade was first.
Hold on. Darkseid is a copy of Thanos, but Wade Wilson is a copy of Slade Wilson.
Darkseid was first. Darkseid was before Thanos.
Was first.
You sure?
I feel like either Thanos or Galactus was first, and it made Darkseid.
I'm pretty sure Darkseid was first, and then they created Thanos. I'm pretty sure.
I wish I had a small machine in my lap that I could Google this with.
Yeah, we'd have to look that up.
We'd have to look it up. But what I'm saying is, like, it should be shocking to people that DC's films are what they are.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I started on Marvel. I was an X-Men kid growing up. I actually had a comic book shop down the block from where I lived that I walked to. It took like 7 minutes, and so I was always there. I got into DC later, and I really never really was that into Justice League, but I loved Batman. I thought Batman had the best villains, and he had the best female characters. When you're a young girl, the X-Men females are a little not who I would want my daughters to look up to in the 90s. You know what I mean? But when you see a movie like this, you're just so sad as a fan.
Yeah. Because it's just wasted potential, honestly.
And how long... I mean, I think it's infuriating to me that I've had to watch as many iterations of DC stuff as I've had to watch. And I have, like, just fatigue over it. Like, there's been how many Batmans just in my lifetime? Like, come on. I'm exhausted. I don't want to see another new Batman. Just get it right and keep that person. Which is why I love Bale. Because they got it right, and they should have just kept that person.
See, that's the thing, though. I don't think they got it right completely because the fight sequences suck. The fight choreography in the Nolan movies are terrible.
I love it, though.
They're very shaky. They're very quick cut. They're not good. They're not good fight sequences, in my opinion.
I completely disagree.
Everything else they nail, but they just don't work for me. But before we wrap up, because we've been going for like 2 hours.
Are you going to ask me about Twilight?
We're gonna talk about Robert Pattinson. So, Robert Pattinson is the perfect person to play Batman.
Oh my God.
Outside of Twilight, have you actually seen his other films?
I don't think he's a bad actor. I just don't like him as Batman.
He has the perfect jaw. He has the ability, he has the great ability to find depth in complicated people, which is what Bruce Wayne is, an incredibly fucked up, complicated guy. And that's what attracted him to the role in the first place.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And he was actually...
what I'm saying is, as an actor, you should be excited to play Batman because he's such a layered character.
Yeah, but he didn't want to do it because of all of the scrutiny that comes with taking on a role like that.
No, because he's super cool and independent and he's so deep. That's why Kristen Stewart liked him.
But I think watching his other films, I think he's going to be brilliant. The fact that he even liked the script and wanted to sign on to do it makes me very excited. I love that Matt Reeves is directing it. And did you see the teaser?
I did. It did not make me any more excited.
So it looks like the Arkham Knight.
Yeah.
The Arkham Knight suit from the Arkham games.
Yeah.
I think it looks sick with the flexing, moving plates so that he can be fully armored, but he can fully move without any issues. I love that. I think he looks great. I think he's going to do a good job, but I want to hear your thoughts.
I'm excited that you seem so happy. You know?
I'm very
That
happy.
makes me happy. I just honestly don't care.
I think you will end up loving it.
I mean, and my thing is I'm down for that. You know what I mean? Like everybody compares it to this one moment in time where Heath Ledger was announced as the Joker and people were like, ew, God, no. And then he was the best. You know, like he just brought it to a whole different level. Like I would be so happy for that to happen because I have severe Batman fatigue.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? Like, I just don't expect anything.
You just saw one 2 years ago.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, that's my thing. And not only did I just see one 2 years ago, I saw, in my opinion, a bad one, but also a completely different version. I saw a much broader shouldered, barrel-chested, older, gray version of Batman. I've seen the Clooney version. I've seen this felt Val Kilmer version. I've seen the why is this guy Batman Michael Keaton version.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like... Who was a terrible... Michael Keaton might have been one of the best in cowl Batmans, but one of the worst Bruce Waynes.
He sucks in both roles. What does he do in the cowl besides stand there and look scary?
He's got that great jaw that you're giving Pattinson props for. They have the same jaw.
No. Michael Keaton does not have a square jaw.
Is Pattinson going to go to the gym before Batman?
So I wanted to talk about this, and this is for everyone listening. This is for you.
Nobody shaming.
This really pisses me off because people are acting like Chris Hemsworth is always that muscular.
Chris Hemsworth is too
skinny.
Big.
Chris Hemsworth is skinny all of the time.
You must not follow this man on Instagram.
He started bulking up when he got into Star Trek, and when he got into Thor, that's when he bulked up.
Obviously,
he's
no one looks
originally
like that.
skinny.
No one thinks
Same
Chris
thing with
Hemsworth
Chris
looks
Evans.
like that.
Chris Evans always worked out because he had roles that required it.
Yeah, he's the Hollywood hottie.
But
I don't think anyone thinks that these people look like that naturally. I mean, Kamal and Johnny blew that shit out of the park when he was talking about everything he went through to be in Eternals, especially Externals. What I'm saying is he has a very Spider-Man Flash body, which doesn't work for Batman. Can he change his body? Absolutely.
Anyone can.
Is he going to, though?
Of course. Dude, you do not take these roles these days without having the body for it. That's just the way it works now.
This, like, they're filming it.
He doesn't look skinny in the image, though.
He looks skinny to me. He looks scrawny.
I think you need to look at it and analyze it again. Because when you look at...
I'm sorry, just the idea that I would be sitting here like, my husband's going to be like, babe, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm analyzing Robert Pattinson's muscles.
when he walks into frame... He looks big just because his face isn't as broad and wide as other people we've seen. That doesn't mean anything about his body.
Well, the good news is
he's pretty broad in the suit when you look at it when he's first walking into frame.
You can put Rob into the Google search engine and it pulls up Robert Pattinson Batsuit.
But that my frustration isn't with you. It's just like, oh my God, he's so skinny.
He does.
It's like, dude, Chris Hemsworth was skinny before he got the role. They bulk up for these roles.
I don't think anyone is saying that Chris Hemsworth naturally looks like Thor. Now, Chris Hemsworth was bigger naturally than Robert Pattinson.
Sure, but that doesn't mean anything because he can just go to the gym and work out, because that's a part of why... I think what people are saying is it doesn't look like Pattinson's going to do that for Batman. Because based on the footage that I saw, I thought he looks like a Spider-Man body. Nah. He looks like a very svelte... like muscular swimmer's body instead of like a Batman body, which Batman to me is very strong jawed, very broad shouldered. He's got that, V shape to the top of him when they kind of draw him. He's always bigger up top than he is on the bottom. Yeah. I wouldn't say he's got like skinny legs, but he's more of a top heavy superhero. People will be surprised.
I'm sure that they will, because he's so skinny.
Because it's just
when he puts on any poundage.
The moment they cast him, he's like, he's too skinny. That means literally nothing.
So what you're upset about is when they first announced it.
Yes. The entire argument leading up to this point, he's so skinny. Dude, before Chris Evans was cast as Captain America, he was not that big.
He was pretty big, though.
He was pretty big in, like... I'm talking about in-between roles. If you follow these people in between roles, they slim down a lot. I think it's after like maybe Thor the Dark World. If you saw how skinny Chris Hemsworth got, they don't stay like that the entire time.
Well, it would be physically impossible to stay like that the entire time.
You work out for months before you get into the costume because you have to bulk up for these roles.
I gotta say, though,
that's not how it works anymore.
Since Chris Hemsworth has launched Center, his workout thing, he stays Thor year round.
Yes.
Which is amazing to me, because the man's got like 3 kids, 4 kids, whole big life. I'm just saying, like, his whole thing is crazy. I can't remember.
What year was Push with Chris Evans?
Oh God, what a great movie that is.
I actually
I'm not lying. People need to rewatch Push. It's a really good film. It has a great plot.
It's just it's so he's skinny in that movie. He has
He has very broad shouldered. He has a 6-pack and he has big old pecs in that film. My husband is skinny. He's not skinny in that film.
He's not as big as he usually is in these superhero movies.
Well, sure.
And it's a part of what they do to bulk up for these roles. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I certainly can understand being upset when he's announced that people are like, he's too skinny. I think now the criticism is a little bit more valid, because
I don't think
footage of it has come out and he doesn't look big.
The only thing you've seen is from like abs up. You have no context, and most of his body is being covered up by the bat suit, but by how broad it is, you can tell that is his entire body.
You've been really passionately talking about Robert Pattinson's body for a while now.
Yes, I have. Because I think he is an incredible actor. I think he is going to destroy this role.
I hope so.
And I just wish people would stop bringing up how skinny he was and bringing up the Twilight thing. Newsflash.
Everybody started in Twilight.
That was 12 years ago.
Also, do you guys realize how many famous people were in Twilight?
Yeah, but where are they now, though?
A lot of them are pretty famous. Anna Kendrick started in Twilight, and she's one of my favorite people of all time.
Anna Kendrick, Kristen Stewart, Robert
Bryce
Pattinson.
Dallas Howard was in Twilight, and she's pretty famous.
That doesn't count.
There's tons of people.
I don't think that counts. Because she's in one movie after taking over for someone else, and she's awful.
She's great. I love Bryce Dallas Howard.
No, I mean, she's awful in the Twilight
I should also say, like,
movie.
I've never seen Twilight.
She's awful in the Twilight
I've
movie.
seen half of the first movie and then just was like, I can't. Like, I just can't.
It was a good business decision for him to take that role in Twilight. He cannot be judged for that.
What I'm saying is a lot of famous people started in Twilight, so I don't think we should judge anyone for having been in Twilight, because a lot of them have careers. I think you're thinking I'm saying something else.
No,
but
not
like,
at all.
I don't care about Twilight anymore. You know what I mean? Like, what's the fucking Lighthouse movie he did where he masturbates on screen? Like, the dude's...
He's great.
Like, the dude's doing it. You know what I mean? Like, he's doing the whole independent movie thing. Yeah. Like, I get it. Like I said,
my frustration isn't with you. This is for all the people
what are you
on the internet.
What are you going to do when the Batman comes out and he doesn't bulk up for it? Are you going to like him are you going to enjoy a much skinnier Batman?
So... it'll bug me for a little bit, but as long as he nails the important things, which is the complexity of the character, the fear that he exudes as Batman in the cowl, as long as that's done well, as long as he's in shape, I think that's the most important thing. If he's really in shape and he looks like a guy that works out and that can fight 10 people all at once, I think that's the most important thing, instead of him just being really huge. I
started laughing at the idea of anyone who ever looks like they're ready to fight 10 guys all at once. You know what I mean? Like, even Thor, you're kind of like, I don't know if he's going to move real fast with all that muscle on him. But I like, to your point, like, I'm just at that place with DC where I'm so exhausted from their constant recasting and them constantly not, like, hitting the nose on the head with things that I'm just kind of like, we'll see. Like, I have no opinion. That's not true. I have a small opinion that he still looks not like Batman to me. But we've had so many different body styles of Batman. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I don't like the bigger bodies, because George Clooney and Ben Affleck are some of the worst to me, and they're on the more barrel-chested side.
That's interesting you say that about Clooney, because I think it's just his suit did that for him.
Yeah, no, that was all suit. He's not. He did not work out at all. He showed up like, where's my paycheck? And he's even said, I did that movie because it helped me buy my Italian villa.
Yeah.
I have no respect for George Clooney. I mean, when it comes to his Batman movie.
Even he knows he shouldn't have done it, but it is what it is. So
we'll see what happens with Pattinson. I mean, I'm always surprised that it's such a big deal online. You know what I mean? Like, we should have learned by now that anything can happen. Like, I don't want to be online yelling about some shit and then it comes out and then I have to be like, oh, actually, guys, I really like it. Like, just calm down and let it happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't put stuff in writing. You that doesn't go away. There's shit on Facebook I wish would go away. But I hope it's good. I don't care. I'll see it, though. I got a movie pass now.
It's Matt Reeves, dude. Matt Reeves has never let me down. He is a great writer. He's a great director. I think every single person he casts in this movie is perfection. I think this is going to be some of the best Batman stuff we've ever seen, and I can't wait.
I hope that's true for you, because I want you to feel the way about a movie that I feel about the Christopher Nolan Batmans, where I feel like I've got it. I'm done. You know what I mean?
I love them. It's just, I love Batman so much. I just don't feel like in the Nolan movies there was enough of the detective aspects of Batman for me. My Batman would not take 8 years off just because his girlfriend died. The promise that he made to his parents is a lot more important than Rachel. I'm sorry. And again, the fight sequences are awful. They are literally awful. There are scenes where people just fall down, and because it's so quick cut and quick paced, if you don't watch these movies over and over, you don't notice them, and you don't notice how terrible they are. In Batman Begins, when we first see him, it's so choppy, it's so fucking shaky, you don't see anything, and then you see people on the floor, and it's like, oh, Batman did a good job, he beat the shit out of people. They're not good fight sequences. They're not. But I'm not trying to say that people shouldn't like them. It's just, for me, I think they're terrible. I think they're absolutely awful. But I love the Nolan movies. I think Christian Bale is the best Batman Bruce Wayne that we've ever gotten to date. I still think that is true. I think Pattinson will beat him, though. But I don't know. I don't have anything to really base that on, because we haven't gotten those movies yet. But that's just what I think. But this was a really fun episode.
It was fun. I think we could cut the end off and just do a whole Batman episode.
No. We could go so deep into Batman.
I wish that Justice League had gone deeper into Batman or Superman or any of them, but it is the shitty movie that we have.
Yeah, I would love for you to come back and let's just do another episode just talking about comics in general.
Hell yeah. But you gotta help me out on my DC knowledge. I'll help you with the Marvel stuff, but you gotta help me with the DC stuff, because you know I don't know that much.
Yeah, we will do that. I hope to see you back very, very, very soon. It was great to have you on the episode.
I'm so excited to be back. I love it.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. It was such a blast having Lola back. Follow me all over social media at C4 Spoilers. If you want to find absolutely everything that we do, head over to carefulwithspoilers.com. You would get links to every podcast on the C4S Podcast Network. You get links to our social media, our Patreon, our articles. Check us out there, and I hope to see you guys next time.